All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guys Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
And Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 192, full swing, full motion. We are so happy to be here with you guys and for you to be here with us, whether you are live streaming, whether you are podcasting, or whether you are YouTube. We want to thank you so much for being here with us, as we're going to break down a lot of things in the world of sports, a lot of NFL, maybe some stuff from Eddie on the other side of things. We got the World Cup coming up in about a week's time. I know Eddie's stoked as hell about that. I can't wait for that as well, man. It's gonna be a great event, and I'm sure Eddie's gonna have some takes on that as well. Because I like to have Eddie kind of peruse the landscape of what he sees in the group settings and all those things. I'd love for Eddie to break that down maybe in the Eddie hour. But you know what? That's his right to do what he wants with it, and we'll have plenty of that today. Man, we got a lot to unpack. And again, if you guys have not already done it, if you could be so kind to us gentlemen here at the Spoken Podcast, go ahead and hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, man. We've seen a lot of growth over the last few weeks there, and we really appreciate all the support we've already gotten. But we're not done here, man. We want to definitely get this thing rolling and getting it going even more than we already have. Like I said, we got to get to the Eddie Hour. We're going to hand out some L's at the end of the show, but we got to get to some NFL football here first and foremost. We just had a game this last week in Kansas City, and I apologize. I'm gonna take a step back real quick, because I don't know if you guys saw that on my shoulders. I needed to dust something off real quick. Remember you guys remember the week 9 picks? You guys remember when we did that? And I remember when I was the guy over here on this end, and it's kind of fitting because I'm like an island over here while you guys are on the other side of things that go on around here. And I remember being the one guy on the show that said that the Jets were going to beat the Bills. And I don't know if you guys caught the end of that game in regulation, but that actually happened, and the Jets did beat the Bills. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't want you guys bringing up any of my other bad takes or any of my other bad predictions at the beginning of the season, because those are irrelevant in this particular context. I just want to look really good here, so I just wanted to throw that out there and let you guys know that that's what happened. So your guys' Bills took an L last week. So
You did pick the Saints over the Ravens.
Like I said, we're not going to talk about those things. Those aren't important.
We're going to keep it positive today.
We're going to definitely talk about the things that made me look decent, and that's what we're going to do today. So I just wanted to congratulate Lance the Spoken on that. We had a game this last week against the Titans. The Chiefs hosted on Sunday Night Football, and we all felt really good about this matchup. We were all sitting here talking about how we felt that the Chiefs were going to outmatch the Titans, especially if Malik Willis ended up getting to go, which he did. That it didn't really matter if the Chiefs gave up a bunch of rushing yards to Derrick Henry, because we know that the Chiefs are a team that have been very successful against teams, even when they run the ball at a high level, very successfully. So we went into this game extremely confident, and what we saw in this game was the complete opposite of what we were expecting. I think that's safe to say. It was a very close game unnecessarily in my eyes, because of the fact that my biggest frustration seeing the majority of this game take shape the way it did was the Chiefs had 2 weeks to plan for this one. And the Titans, although we're on a 5-game winning streak going into this game, we all knew that the Chiefs were the better team, more rested team, had no excuse not to have a 10, 15-point victory in this one. So it isn't even about the style points that really worry me or bother me about this one. What bothered me the most is the Chiefs came out looking very uninspired offensively. And it was something that I never would have thought would have happened in this particular context. Big home game, feeling good about yourselves after our massive beat down in San Francisco. I'm sorry, was it Santa Clara now? It's like 50 miles from San Francisco, but for some reason they're still the San Francisco 49ers. Same thing, whatever. We see that, and they're building upon that. We're thinking, oh, okay, now the Chiefs' offense is going to be rolling, and they did anything but that. Now, to the credit of Patrick Mahomes in this particular matchup, the man had 509 yards of offense. The Chiefs had over 90 plays on offense, but they only scored 20 points. That's very concerning in this particular game against a team that might actually make the playoffs. The Titans are a decent team. They're banged up, especially after this matchup with the Chiefs in Sunday Night Football. Jeffrey Simmons and guys like that on a walking boot. Hold the cell, Jeffrey. But there are things to take away from this. I directly, after every single game, I go on the Chief Concern podcast with Marcus Dash and Jason Dunn. And Marcus asked me the question about some of the things that I'd like to see changed moving forward for the Chiefs. And I think the biggest thing that we have to look at when it comes to the offense, there's two things in particular. One, they got to get better at right tackle. Andrew Wiley is trying, and I give him all the credit in the world because he does his best. He's not good enough, and he was getting destroyed in this game. And I know there was a lot of plays, so that opens up the opportunity for mistakes to be made. Guys get tired, things of that nature, so I'll give him a break on that. But all season long, we've seen the right tackle position. It looked like Cam Irving is still out there playing for the Chiefs. I mean, just Interstate 77 out there right now for the Chiefs, man. Everybody's just going right through Andrew Wiley, which is why I want to see as soon as Lucas Niang is healthy enough, he's got to play. He's got to play. He's clearly the best option. I know he's had health concerns, and that's always something that worries me. But when he's on the field and he's healthy, he is clearly the best guy for the right tackle position. And if not, it's the guy that was just a guest on the Chief Concern podcast, and that's Darian Kennard. He's on this roster for a reason, and I said that from the beginning of the season. He's not played at all. He's been ready to go. He's not injured, anything like that. He's a rookie, sure. But you can't tell me he couldn't play better than what Andrew Wiley's been playing like over the last month. I think he could. So I think that they got to get better at right tackle. And on the other part of the offense, the biggest issue, the biggest concern, and why Patrick Mahomes had to put the cape on multiple times in this game, in particular on the 3rd and 17 first down conversion he had with his feet, is the run game. We've defended our guys, and we've defended our guys. I've been a defender of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I love the potential of Isaiah Pacheco. We've always called Jerick McKinnon that necessary veteran that gives us that juice every once in a while on a big third down play, or does really good at chip blocking and giving Patrick Mahomes that extra little second. That's not enough. They don't have enough right now in the run game. You can blame the offensive line in some regard, but guys, there's been opportunities for these guys to do things in the run game. They've simply not executed and done it the right way. And that is why I have been hammering my fist to the table constantly that the Chiefs need to give Ronald Jones an opportunity here. I understand that people think that, again, it's the offensive line, this and this and this. But guys, I'm telling you right now, there has to be something different to change. You're not gonna bench Joe Thuney. You're not gonna bench Creed Humphrey. Trey Pancake Papa Smith's going nowhere. Orlando Brown is gonna stay at left tackle. So if you're not changing those things, you have to give someone an opportunity to see what they got. I'm not saying Ronald Jones is going to be a savior, but I think he could be better than what Isaiah Pacheco's been. I think he could be better than what Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been. I think he could be better than what Jerick McKinnon has been because of what he's proven when he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a team that won a Super Bowl. He was a productive player. And I want to see him give this team an opportunity to have something that can be effective in the run game. This offense is always going to be pass-heavy. We know that. We're always going to be a pass-heavy offense as long as Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback. But you have to have more of a balanced attack. And the Chiefs did not have that at all in this game. Patrick Mahomes threw the ball 68 times. The Chiefs had 61 rushing yards. That is not acceptable. You cannot have that going. What do we always knock the Bills on? What is always their Achilles heel besides just the Chiefs alone, but on their side of things? They can't run the ball, and they're too Josh Allen reliant. Patrick Mahomes had a Josh Allen type of game where he had to create everything offensively. It was all on Patrick Mahomes, or else the Chiefs were dead in the water. And I'm not just talking about passing. He had to create everything with his feet. It's unacceptable.
It's literally like Josh Allen's game last week against the Jets, but they didn't win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, is that we got to get more. The Chiefs have to get more out of the run game. And if the guys that are out there getting the opportunities for over 2 months aren't doing the job, get the guy that's healthy, 25 years old, that's ready to prove himself. Let him do what he can do. If he can't work, what are you losing? More of the same? You've been getting more of the same from these guys right now. Now, on the positive side of this game, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on that as well, on the whole Rojo aspect of what I'm talking about, the offensive line, right tackle, what you guys think they should do. But I want to move to the defensive side as well, because this is actually one I want to give the Chiefs a ton of praise. Steve Spagnuolo, what did I say, guys, when I came to key players last week? I said, this is going to be the guy. I want Steve Spagnuolo to have his best game as a defensive coordinator as a member of the Chiefs. That's exactly what he did. Yes, Derrick Henry went off in the first half. Guess what, guys? Derrick Henry is one of the 10 greatest running backs to ever live. That's going to happen, especially against the defense that's been getting gashed in the run game. But what matters more, rushing yards or scores? Touchdowns. What matters more? It's clearly touchdowns. And that's the thing that the Chiefs ended up taking care of at the end. Second half in an overtime, the Chiefs gave up 1 first down and 10 total yards. And so that is why I'm giving Steve Spagnuolo all the credit in the world for why this game happened. It did what it did. Patrick Mahomes had 509 yards of offense, did everything he could on the offensive side, but it's the defense that won the Chiefs the game in this one. I have some concerns in regards to the special teams. We had a poll this week about Harrison Butker. If people are still confident in him moving forward, I am concerned about Harrison Butker because of the fact that I don't know if he's healthy still. The thing that's frustrating me about Harrison Butker is to this day, and I do not understand how he does it, but he continues to do it. He will kick 58-yard plus field goals in the biggest moments of games and sink them with no problem. But when it comes to PATs that are 25-yard chip shots, wide right, wide left. I don't understand why this is the case. If he makes his field goals early in the game, they don't go into overtime. The Chiefs win this game. Still ugly, but they have reliability at the kicker position. Right now, the Chiefs don't. I believe in Harrison Butker still. I think he can turn things around. I do. He's one of the best kickers in football. But we can't sit here and pretend as if he's not replaceable. You know why I know that's the case? Because where did the Chiefs get him 5 years ago? On the Panthers practice squad. He was a nobody. He got his opportunity and capitalized. Well, guess what? There's other Harrison Butkers out there. And he knows that more than anybody. And if Harrison Butker can't do the job and can't make the simplistic kicks, get those chip shots in for a team that's trying to win a Super Bowl, he can be replaced. And I really hope the Chiefs are keeping that as an option. Because I understand this guy's made big kicks in the past, but we've seen the Patriots move on from Vinatieri. We've seen the Colts move on from Vinatieri. We've seen Dan from the Cowboys, who had the greatest kicking percentage of all time. Cowboys cut him. So my point in all of this is the Chiefs have to stay on their toes in all three facets of the game. Get better at right tackle when you have options out there that can potentially upgrade at that position. Lucas Niang gets healthy or Darian Kennard. Rojo is literally sitting on the shelf. If your running backs aren't getting the job done, give him an opportunity and see what he can do. It literally costs you nothing to do that. And on the defensive side, keep doing what you're doing. Allow the bend, don't break method, especially against offenses you can't throw the ball. And Steve Spagnuolo is going to help this team win a lot more games, especially in the postseason. And at the special teams positions, if your kickers aren't getting it done, do not be afraid to make change. As we saw when Harrison Butker was out, it was costing them games. Harrison Butker comes back, almost cost them games as well. I don't want to see the Chiefs lose games because of their kicker. That's something historically we've suffered throughout our entire lives. I don't want to see that happening more. Trevor, what are your thoughts?
So you're of the mind that we have a running back talent issue rather than a schematic issue?
I think it's both. I definitely think it's both.
I think it's far more schematically.
That's fair. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is that I think Isaiah Pacheco has shown us that he's very quick. He's got a good physical ability.
Yeah, you got to give him a chance to run the ball before he gets met in the backfield first.
We saw the All-22, though, this week, and there were multiple times and opportunities he did not hit the right holes. So that's the point I'm trying to make. And again, I don't want to even put this on Pacheco because he's a 7th-round rookie. I'm going to give him time. I'm not saying that the Chiefs are doing things the wrong way with him getting opportunities. It's kind of a red flag that none of the running backs are getting production? No.
They're all just doing the wrong things on
Schematics are the biggest problem because of the fact Eric Bieniemy said it himself that they got to run the ball more, which is confusing because he supposedly calls plays. So I'd like to see him call more run plays, that's for sure. But the opportunities we're seeing the running backs have, how many times have we seen Clyde run right into a pile of dust? How many times have we seen Isaiah Pacheco do the exact same thing? Right, but I'm saying as many times we've seen that, we've seen holes that are presented. I can show you guys the video. I can show you the footage.
Okay, you asked me a question, so I thought I'd be able to answer it real quick.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so I think it's much more a schematic thing here. I know we could talk about the All-22 and when we don't run the ball enough to begin with, though. We don't run enough because running backs need to get rhythm. You talk about all the great running backs. You talk about Derrick Henry. You talk about Saquon Barkley this year. You talk about Travis Etienne and all these young guys, Kenneth Walker, that are they're getting 15 carries plus every week. We've got to have we want to have a balanced attack. You got to create that rhythm. You know what I mean? So And that starts up with blocking up front in this offensive line. We have not been a good run blocking unit outside of a couple weeks that we've ran against the Niners, and which was more trickery than straight up running the ball with McCole and so finding ways for Clyde to bounce on the outside and have a nice little block on the edges and stuff like that, which I want to see more of the running on the outside, because I think a lot of the skill sets of these running backs is to bounce outside rather than up the gut, because we don't have a big bang outside of Rojo, who could be a guy that can get up the gut, but we keep running it. We had like I formation with Clyde up the middle.
Yeah,
that just doesn't make sense to me. That's not who he is. So I think a lot of it's just like schematic issues, coaching decisions, strange. I don't know. And from what I've seen from our run blocking, we have yet to find any kind of consistency with the run blocking. Pass pro's been fine, spotty at times, but fine overall. But if we want to run the ball, run the ball right. Do some power O, some misdirection, some bounce outside, some toss plays. We don't see any stuff like that anymore. And if you talk about Pacheco being a speedster guy, let him bounce outside. You know what I mean? Do a nice toss play or a misdirection toss play or something like that, and see what they can do. Run it, more than once every 12 plays. It's unacceptable for me to watch an entire football game where Patrick Mahomes has to throw the ball almost 70 times and be the leading rusher.
Yeah.
That's coaching problem. That's a scheme problem. We are unable to find a running game 9.5, 10 weeks into the season. It's unacceptable to me. We should not, and we're lucky. We're obviously not lucky. We're blessed enough to have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback for us to be the leading offense in the league still, while being extremely one-dimensional. And I know all the analytics will tell everybody, passing the ball every down pretty much is the superior way to play this game, because obviously you average more yards per play, more success rate as far as getting first downs, and then when you have Patrick Mahomes, it's that much more successful and that much more promising. And I get that. But when the season starts getting tighter and playoffs times come around, you got to have a secondary attack offensively. You cannot just be one-dimensional offensively. We've seen that in the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers dominated us because we had no other attack on offense. Even screen passes to these running backs. We're not getting enough to screen passes and some downfield blocking for these guys. It's just strange. I don't know. We talked about all this offseason leading into this season about how Pacheco is this speed guy and he's dominant. He runs angry, but we don't give him enough chances or even touches to catch a rhythm ever to even get him in space to see what he actually can do. We'll do a I formation, just HB dive, and it's just like it's frustrating. Like that's all we do. And we don't give him a chance to actually showcase what he's actually talented. Yeah, has he missed a hole here and there? Sure. But from what I've seen, there hasn't been that many great holes in this offensive line as far as run blocking goes, which is strange because this run blocking front offensive line is what we're supposed to be doing. I thought we were going to be great at it. We just have not. And I think it's just a consistency problem. I don't think we do it enough to make it an important part of our offense. So that is definitely an issue. We need to find balance in this offense. Nothing crazy, maybe like a 70-30 split between passing and running. I don't think we need to be a run-heavy offense by any means, because I just don't think that's who we are and ever will be under Patrick Mahomes, and I'm fine with throwing the ball a lot. But this game last week was far too close and far too competitive for my liking. I don't think any of us expected it to be that close. The Titans, for some reason, find ways to rough up the game and make us play their kind of game, and that's exactly what they did. And we always fall for it. That was the most frustrating part to me, is we fell for it. We fell right into their trap of just letting them get in our heads. They're pushing us around. Travis Kelce's throwing his fucking helmet. All these things, like it's just I don't think they're even remotely on our wavelength and remotely on our tier of who we are as teams, yet we keep playing down to their just because they're a passionate team, and we played down to their passion and right. Read right into their their story that they wanted us to read. So Pat played good enough to get the game going. I know he had a shit ton of yards, but it was a lot of empty possessions with just empty yards. He accumulated a lot of empty passing yards, and it wasn't that impressive to me. Pat looked shook. He shook the whole game, really. He was throwing a lot of ducks. We were basically just throwing it to Juju and Travis Kelce every single time. I will say Noah Gray had maybe the best catch of his career so far. Very impressive, very big moment. So that to me looks like a big growing moment for Noah Gray. That's one of those plays that can kind of just put that much more confidence into a player who's possibly going to be the next guy up when Travis Kelce's out of the picture, which won't be for another few years. But that's a big play for him, and I was very impressed by that catch, that concentration, because that was a tough ball to get, and he got it. Travis Kelce also made that reaching back across his body catch, which was incredible. And Juju continues to impress, man. This is the third straight week Juju's been, pushing for 100 yards and multiple, 6+ receptions. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Juju. You can kind of see that mind meld that him and Kelsey have coming into place with him and Juju, where he has that. He finds those spots where he knows Patrick likes to find them. He'll run a route and he'll break off and he'll sit into a sweet spot where there's nobody there and Pat will find him. So that's good to see. MVS needs to step it up. Not seeing enough out of him. He ran 50+ routes, had 1 target, 1 catch. Tough catch. I'll say that was a bad ball by Pat, and he still managed to catch a very low ball. But, if you're out there that much, man, and you're not getting open, you're not getting space, you're not creating – that's just not – and there were multiple times, man, where Pat – me and you both know, Lance, from watching that game, where McCole Hardman's wide open downfield a few times, and Pat just doesn't see him. You know what I mean? So there's a lot to be desired, a lot left to be desired in that game for sure. I felt like we should have won by much more. There was no business being in overtime in this game. I don't even need to say much about the defense, though. I think the defense is really coming into its own. McDuffie being out there. Granted, I know this is not even remotely a passing attack by any means. That offense is horrible right now. If Tannehill would have been in there, this could have been a different game. We could have very well lost this game if they could have been able to have any kind of receptions to any receivers. But our defense did what we needed to do. They played the hand that they were dealt, and they took care of business. All of our guys were getting pressures. Our secondary was taking care of business. So I couldn't ask for much more than that. Spags was definitely getting after the young quarterback over there in Willis, blitzing his ass, and that was good to see that aggression. That's a good thing to build on for this defense. So I'm impressed with him, and I've been impressed with his defense overall this season. There's going to be growing pains in the secondary, but the pressures have been consistent this season up front, and I like that. Chris Jones is playing like a madman. But overall, yeah, I agree with you. We do need to find balance, but I'm hanging this more on schematic coaching issues with the running game more than I am. I think we got talent in the backfield. I really do. And if we didn't have talent, there's no reason we'd be sitting Rojo every week if we knew he was that much more talented than these guys. I don't believe that. So I think the talent is there. I just think we need to actually run the ball consistently instead of running it on first down and then throwing it 3 straight times or two straight times or whatever. Like we'll run it every 12th play, and that's just not good enough. Running backs need rhythm. It's like shooters in basketball. If you shoot one and you miss it and you don't shoot and you just pass for the next 8, 12 possessions, you're never going to find a rhythm. You got to shoot through it. You got to get through it. And you got to let these running backs kind of find a rhythm and find out who they are. Instead of having 3 guys rotating in and out, none of them are ever going to find a rhythm if you're running it once every 2, 3 plays with one of them and then you're rotating. It's a strange dynamic going on right now.
Let me reply to that, and I'll get to Eddie in just a second. But I want to reply to that because there are a couple angles I look at this from, and I do 100% believe, and you guys have known for the last couple of years, I've been hammering the table as well. The Chiefs need to run the ball more because I don't want so much pressure being on Patrick Mahomes. Even though when you pay a guy $500 million, you're probably going to put a lot on him, and that's okay. Yeah. He's the best quarterback in football. It's natural. But even if you look back at the other greatest quarterbacks of all time, you look at Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, Drew Brees, they all usually had sustainable run games. And it's not... I don't know if I can just, and again, this is me factoring in the fact that Andy Reid has always been a coach that does not like to run the ball. Even back in his Eagles days, his running backs were known for catching the ball in the backfield like Brian Westbrook. He wasn't known as this ground and pound type of running back. That's just not Andy Reid's style, so I've accepted that and made peace with that. Sure. So that's why I look at other parts of this, because we've seen running backs throughout even the Andy Reid era in Kansas City be very successful in the ground game. And one of those was Kareem Hunt. And Kareem Hunt, before he ever became the starter, that Week 1 game when Spencer Ware was a very talented running back, got hurt, and then you saw Kareem Hunt come in and give this offense that much more life that Spencer Ware could have never dreamed of giving the Chiefs, both in the ground game.
Spencer was still playing well.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, Spencer was a good running back. I think the year previous he had 961 rushing yards. But Kareem Hunt came in and took it to another level.
We were running the ball a lot.
And I've always been the one that said that I think Rojo is the most skilled running back on this team. I stand by that. And I think if he gets in this offense, you can see another level, because this offense hasn't been the same since Kareem Hunt's left. We know the emphasis has been on Tyreek Hill leaving. This offense hasn't been the same since 2018. That was a historic offense, averaging 37 points per game with Kareem Hunt. So that is why I'm looking for that next guy. I don't think they could ever just replicate what Kareem Hunt was, but I want to find something that's close to it. And so far, I haven't seen that at any of these 3 guys. And to the point, Trevor, about what I'm talking about from the running backs and their lack of production when given opportunities. This last week alone, you're talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, and even Michael Burton, who got a rush. They had 13 rushes combined, and they were averaging 1 yard per carry together. Yeah. And then all of them literally 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard. That's why Patrick had to carry. And then if you look at the last 4 games for all these guys, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is averaging 3.5 yards per carry. Isaiah Pacheco is averaging 3 yards per carry, and Jerick McKinnon is averaging 3.6 yards per carry. So that's just not good enough from your running back position. So you might be right that schematics might be playing a part in that, but there is another side of that. We can't throw it all on schematics when all 3 running backs are showing that they're not getting the job done.
Yep.
So go to another option. And that's why I wanted just to throw that out there, that if your run game isn't working and you're not budging from your schematics, then find a guy that maybe can fit into the schematics.
But what I'm saying is the run game isn't working because we're not running it.
They ran the ball 13 times out of Patrick Mahomes.
13 times.
You're making it sound like they're not running the ball, though.
Okay, but 13 times split between 3 different players. How is any one of them going to catch a rhythm?
You have to understand, though. You're going to tell me right now, if the Chiefs couldn't have got a couple big run plays, they wouldn't have ran the ball more?
So you just abandon it. That's
what
I'm saying. That's what
I
we're
agree.
doing.
I agree that they don't run the ball as much as I would like. My point, though, is that if in a tight game like this, if you're not finding it in the run game, you have to throw the ball. That's why the Bills and teams like the Buccaneers do that, because they're not finding it in the run game, so they have to throw the ball.
What I'm saying is we're not finding new ways to run the ball. We're doing literally just up the gut, a couple here and there, HB dives here and there, just to kind of keep the defense honest.
Yeah.
And then we're just throwing the ball every time.
It
doesn't feel like we're trying to get a real running game going. We're not trying to bounce outside. We have these guys that are fast, and every time Clyde's had a big running play, it's been like towards the outside, beating the edge.
Yeah.
Never up the gut.
We saw that in the San Francisco game.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like, if we can do that against Nick Bosa, why can't we do it against the Titans at least a couple times, dude? That's a schematic issue.
That's what I'm meet you halfway on this.
Yeah,
I agree with all everything you're saying is
it's
right.
more than just one thing, but it's just consistency is the main problem here. We're not finding a scheme to where we can. I mean, confidence too, man. These running backs don't have confidence right now because they're not getting used enough.
That's why I'm saying, I want to see one of these running backs, because I wouldn't complain if one of these running backs was being productive. I'd be like, oh, well, Rojo ain't getting a shot because this guy's balling.
Yeah.
My point, though, is I want one of these guys, or in an ideal world, multiple guys on this team, to give Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy a reason to run the ball, because Kareem Hunt did that.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt gave them a reason to run the ball. That's why he led the league in rushing in 2017. Jamal Charles had baller seasons here for 2 years before he ultimately broke down.
That was honestly a very much more run heavy team though with Alex Smith at the helm. Our zone blocking was great.
That's why I'm not expecting somebody to have 1,400 rushing yards. I know that's not going to happen anymore. I'm saying give me a guy that can give me 5 yards a rush. Give me a guy that on 13 carries can give me 80 yards. I want that guy. If you can give me that guy, you're not going to hear me ask about Rojo. You're not going to hear me disagreeing on anything you're saying. I'm going to be like, well, they have a guy that's productive. They just need to give him more opportunities. Then we're all three going to be on the same side as that.
I think for me, it's not even just about straight up run plays. I would like to see these guys just get the ball in their hands, dump it down. We don't see enough check downs to these guys. I would love to see a Pacheco, Isaiah Pacheco down. You know what I mean? I would love to see him get the ball in the flat and have the tight ends and receivers blocking downfield and see what he can do with his speed.
Absolutely.
We're not even getting these guys involved in the offense. That's what's frustrating to me.
We got to get to Eddie. I want to get to Eddie. I'm sorry, but I mean, you guys would agree. And let's just go to you right after I ask this question. You would agree, and maybe you can take this question and then take off from where you saw this game going and how you saw things play out, Eddie. You would agree, though, that, and I don't want to pretend like I know, but you would agree that there's a theory out there that seems valid that in games like this, I think Andy Reid and the offensive scheme kind of takes a step back where they feel that we can win this game without really putting a lot out there. I think sometimes they get a little arrogant, because that's why look at the Colts game. People talk about why the Chiefs struggle against AFC South opponents. That's because most times when they face AFC South opponents, they're not as good as the Chiefs. You know what I mean? They look at them as almost like an inferior opponent, so they almost overlook them a little bit at times. And I think that's sometimes why they don't come out there with this effective game plan, because you saw against the Niners, when they started clicking, it was unstoppable. We saw none of that against the Titans. You can't tell me it's because the Titans are a better team or better defense than the 49ers, because they're simply not. So I can understand a little bit from your perspective of that, and then you can give us your take on the game.
Yeah, I think he plays down to the opponents, the AFC South especially, because we've seen it a couple years ago when we started against I think we started the season against the Jaguars in Jacksonville, and that's when Sammy Watkins went off, and we're like, oh shit, we got Sammy Watkins back. He's back, and he disappeared after that. But
I don't think he had a touchdown for the rest of the season.
Yeah, but yeah, I think he goes down to his opponents against the Colts. I think it was more of a we're just a better team. We're just gonna go in there, do our thing, and get out. But what I see about this team is when you play the Chiefs physically or physical, they struggle a lot more than when you don't. So and I've seen both the Colts and the Titans do that same type of game where you try and get into their head and then play that physical game. Push them around. Don't let them just don't let them get those quick plays. You push them around you. You're not afraid to get that penalty. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we saw it in the end zone when they fucking bear hugged Travis Kelce when he ripped that dude's helmet off. We saw it. They play the Chiefs physical, and when they do that, the Chiefs can't handle it as good as other teams can. So I don't think we struggle specifically against AFC South. I mean, I'm sure there's something there that the AFC South teams just know how Andy Reid plays. I don't know. But we've seen when we play good teams from the AFC South, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think it was the year they went to the AFC Championship or the year before or the year after they went to the AFC Championship, when they came into Arrowhead and we beat them, we beat them out here. Rough game, but we still beat them. So I don't know. I don't know what's with Andy Reid in the AFC South, but I think it's more of the Chiefs, stepping down to their level of play.
Are you done?
Yeah, no.
Okay. I just want to say one more thing about the running back thing. This is why I don't believe it's a talent issue with the running backs, because in this exact same scheme, in this exact same kind of offense, even with Patrick Mahomes at the quarterback position, I've seen the likes of Darwin Thompson, Charkandrick West, other guys of these type of skill players thrive in this offense in big games. And there's just no excuse. I think there's just something going on in the play calling here where they're just not finding ways to get these guys involved in this offense. And that's the most frustrating part to me. I am not going to believe that all three of these guys are just not talented enough to accumulate yards in the running game. Because I've seen, like I said, the undersized Darwin Thompson and very undersized Charkandrick West thrive not only in good running plays here and there, but very much involved in the passing game and getting chunk yards and checkdowns and things like that. So. And touchdowns and big plays. I remember that sidearm throw to Charkandrick West in that Seattle game. Remember that play?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Little things like that. We're just not even getting these guys they're not really running routes downfield. It's just I don't know what it is.
That was kind of an off-schedule play, but yeah, you're right.
But at least he's running down, he's streaking downfield, and then Pat's finding these guys. We're not even getting these guys looks in the passing game really at all. And especially Clyde. That's the most frustrating thing to me. Clyde is incredible in the passing game and when the ball's in his hands downfield. He's shifty once he's downfield. He's not a true runner. I think we still have 9 weeks, 10 weeks into this season. We still got things to figure out how to get these guys involved. And I think once we do, and we've seen it, once the running backs are involved, that opens up the offense that much more. And Pat looks way more comfortable, and he knows he has some guys in the backfield that he can depend on, not only run but to dump it down to. Then especially with McKinnon, who's likely out this week, a guy that he can depend on to check it down and create big chunk plays for us and create momentum. So if we want good momentum, a lot of that comes from the running backs. You know what I mean? So, those are the guys that can eat up yards really quickly and spark this offense. And I think we've seen that numerous times when our offense thrives. It's because we get big chunk plays from those guys. So gotta see it, man. That's what we gotta see moving forward in these next matchups.
And talking about the run game, I think it's more that I don't think we have a sole starter. Yes, you can say that Pacheco was named the starter, but if you look at the games, he's not in there every drive. He's not in there every play. He's not in there. They rotate all three running backs throughout the entire game. They don't have Pacheco running the ball more times than Clyde. So they probably have Clyde running the ball more than Pacheco. Pacheco's a starter. Yeah. I think this is where the Chiefs had to stop and say, hey, who's our starter? Okay, Pacheco. Let's do Pacheco. Let's design plays around Pacheco. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's design plays for Pacheco, for his strengths. And then we'll focus on the other ones as they come in throughout the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that's where the Chiefs struggle in the running game because they don't know who their real starter is. You can say Isaiah Pacheco is named the starter, but that doesn't mean he's the starter because, like I said, go back into the games and they're all rotating different drives. In the same drive, you'll see probably Pacheco do the whole drive, and the next drive you'll see Clyde, McKinnon, and then Pacheco sometimes, or you won't even see Pacheco. It's all just Clyde and McKinnon. So I think that the Chiefs, where they have to focus is on one running back and design plays just specific to their strengths and see where that goes. And then to add to this game, it's very concerning for me seeing Patrick Mahomes go for 500 yards and still only score 20 points, like you said. A lot of those were just empty yards. Either we didn't come up with points, or what we did, it was only 3 points. We just have to find out. We were really good in the red zone, but for some reason this game we just couldn't get it in there. And and I think is a big part that we don't have a second game like Trevor alluded to, is we don't have the second type of game that we can play like with the running style. If you involve the running game a lot more, I think it would open the defense to a lot more or the offense to a lot more options once you get into the red zone. But yeah, I love how this defense though second half, you know, you said, you know, our offense is struggling out there. We gotta do what we gotta do, you know. And I think the defense won this game for us. We can sit here and praise Patrick Mahomes, yeah, but it was towards the end of the game where he had those two big running plays where he scored on the 3rd and 9, and then he converted the 3rd and 17 right before the 3rd and 9, and it's the 2-point conversion.
Right.
If you go back, I think that's the biggest you can see Patrick Mahomes that did on that field that game. And I think with the defense going in there and stopping pretty much the Titans offense, Derrick Henry, I think they only allowed Derrick Henry for like 20 yards the second half, and then
I don't think he had that. I think they only had 10 yards total in the second half.
They barely used Derrick Henry in the second half, which was a little strange.
He was averaging 6.8 yards per carry in the first half. Had 2 touchdowns.
They completely stopped it.
That was strange.
The second half, and then obviously when they saw the Chiefs creeping up, they started relying more on Malik Willis to extend the drives, and they couldn't get it done. And so I praise this defense because, in my opinion, and to Patrick Mahomes' opinion that day too, is the defense played their asses off, and I think this will save the game. So I think this offense still needs to, you know, get more ways to win. We can't just rely on Patrick Mahomes. That, like you said, we're relying on Patrick Mahomes kind of like what the Bills rely on that Josh Allen, you know, to create plays, make plays, to do everything for that offense. We can't have that. I know having one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, you might think you're able to do that, but they also the greatest players, even in soccer, the greatest players need help, and if they don't have that help, you will never win a championship. Yeah, it's the same in basketball. You can be the superstar on your team, but if you don't have another superstar or another top player that can, you know, that has your back.
Are you making an argument for LeBron right now? Is that what you're doing?
That's wild, Eddie. How you're doing that?
Michael Jordan. I'm making an argument for Michael Jordan. You know, he couldn't win without Scottie Pippen. You know what I mean?
Facts.
So every player needs help, and we can't just rely on Patrick Mahomes. I think the Chiefs, like I said, they need to focus on one running back and one running back only. We can't do this running back committee. If we're gonna name one starter, let's stick with that starter, and like I say, play to the strengths.
Well said.
I expect our team to figure it out.
Well, and some positive notes here on both sides of the ball. I think Nick Bolton had maybe the play of the game on that third. It was a 3rd and 6.
Man,
that little dump off that could have went for the house.
Multiple great plays.
Absolutely dropped him. Yeah, that was a great play by Nick Bolton on that one. I'm going to give him a lot of credit. Travis Kelce, even though he had a very weird, frustrating game,
multiple drops,
he still had 10 receptions for 106 yards. So that's how great Travis Kelce is. Like, a bad game for him is a game like that, where it's going to put him in the Hall of Fame, basically.
Hardly one of his best catches ever, too. That crossbody, it was a bad ball.
And one of his best games, only 25 yards with 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, right. So he's had himself a fun season for sure. How about our guy McCole Hardman, that is going to unfortunately miss this week against the Jaguars, which we'll talk in a minute. Had himself 9 targets, 6 receptions for 79 yards and a touchdown. Should have had 3, as you alluded to, about how Patrick multiple times. I'm sorry, yeah, you both were kind of alluding to it about how Patrick Mahomes missed him multiple times wide open down the field. I mean, he should have had 8-9 catches for 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's the kind of game that McCole should have had. He should have back-to-back 3 touchdown games. How wild that sounds. My guy McCole's been actually balling out this year in the way that, like we were talking before the show, fits this offense and does the things that they need out of that guy. And I don't think he's going to be here after this season, but I think he's going to succeed wherever he goes because he's a very talented player, man. I also want to give some shout outs to Juju Smith-Schuster. I made a post this week about him, and I stand by every word I said. He is everything that Patrick Mahomes needed in a wide receiver. You know, the focus has been on what the Chiefs lost this offseason. I want us to focus more on now what the Chiefs gained. And Juju Smith-Schuster is one of their biggest gains of this offseason. The last 3 games, Patrick Mahomes throwing to Juju Smith-Schuster is 22 of 25 with a 99 QBR.
Sure-handed.
The QBR goes from 0 to 100. He has a 99 QBR when he throws to Juju over the last 3 games. It may have taken a couple weeks for them to really get this thing going, as expected. But this last month, Juju has been on an absolute tear.
Ballin'.
And I absolutely love what he brought to the game. Like I said, 10 receptions for 88 yards, averaged just under 9 yards per reception, was targeted 12 times, had a 17-yard reception. Juju's just, guys, I really like what's going on with him, and I know we've talked about this a lot, but I really hope that the Chiefs find a way to get him here for the next 3 to 4 years.
And my fantasy team's loving it. You know what I mean? So
he's been everything I wanted out of him. I mean, he's on pace for I think 1,200 yards this season and like 8 touchdowns. He's having an all-pro year. I know that sounds crazy to say because of how the season started and what he's come from over the last 2 years. But I really do think 2018, 2019 Juju is back. I really think that guy is coming back, and I think he's helping Patrick Mahomes look as great as Patrick has looked this season, who's on pace for 5,500 yards.
And with him being questioned already about, possibly does he want to stay with the Chiefs, and all those questions already kind of, the mid-season questions are coming around.
He already hinted that he wants to stay here.
Yeah, so how do you feel about that? Do you think the Chiefs lock him up for another few years?
I think it's a foregone conclusion that the Chiefs want that to happen.
Because his price is rising.
I think it's going to come down to is what his market's going to be, which is probably going to be insane.
Yeah.
As I said, this is why I was looking at the market in a current state of mind, where I would give him a 3-year, $48 million deal that puts him $16 million a year, which is like right at the league average, or right above the league average right now of like the best receivers getting paid.
So there's teams like the Packers and wide receiver needy teams that will probably pay a guy
and
like that.
That's the thing I do worry about is I think that maybe the Chiefs get priced out because as we saw just this last offseason, the Chiefs are not willing to pay Tyreek Hill the money he was asking for. So I'd have to imagine if they're saying we're not going to pay Tyreek Hill, who's significantly better than Juju, $30 million.
Yeah.
If Juju's asking for 22,
hell no,
they're not doing it.
I'm not doing that.
So.
I'll tell you what, though. What I give Juju, and I give him a lot of respect for, is he's loyal. He's
Absolutely.
loyal, and he
That is
showed
true.
it
He
before.
did give Ben
Imagine turning down Andy Reid when he's sending you a Lombardi Trophy picture.
Yes.
That's loyalty, bro.
And he came to Kansas City for what, 3.9?
Yeah.
This
is
the
a
incentives are going to get him about 10.
I'm sure there was
year.
teams out there offering way more.
I don't know.
For one year.
Potentially, he was coming off a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Missed I think 12 games last year.
Yeah.
What I will say is this: I do agree with that. I do agree that loyalty is a thing for Juju, unlike most players, especially at his position, because wide receivers go out and get the bag as they should. The skill sets they have is insane, and at this time of his career, he should go get the bag. So I wouldn't be mad if he did. I do think the Chiefs are going to be competitive because I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to explain to Patrick Mahomes and the fan base that in back-to-back years they lose their wide receiver one to the market. I just don't know if they're going to want to do that, but I do think the Chiefs are going to cap it somewhere and say, hey, look, we'll pay you upwards of 20. We're not paying you more than that. And if it makes sense for Juju for a 3 or 4 year contract and the guaranteed dollars make sense, I think he would stay. But if there's a team out there that has a decent chance of winning and wants to pay him an extra 22 to 25 million a year, then I do think there's a chance Juju's gone.
And I read somewhere on Twitter that if the Chiefs play their cards right, I think they have the 3rd biggest cap next season. If they do all their bonuses and all that
They'll
stuff.
have $120+ million in cap space and all the max deals and all that stuff go the right way. The extensions and all that stuff.
If they capitalize on what they can capitalize in, I've read it as like the 3rd biggest in the league. Which is
not very realistic. That's like the most optimistic point of view. I think realistically the Chiefs can bounce around $80 million in cap. But if you can get $80 million in cap with a team that's already got their solidification in place of quarterback, tight end, key players, if you extend Chris Jones, then you're looking at things being a lot more simplistic, especially with all the rookie players.
Yeah.
Like Trey McDuffie, who, by the way, has yet to give up a completion this season, being a guy that's on a rookie deal for the next 4 years. The guys like that, Loftus, if he ends up becoming something, which I think is slowly becoming that guy, then you're looking at a team that can start going out there and being aggressive in free agency unlike they were this last year, where they can go out there and spend and go and get a guy, an edge rusher, and pay him $65 million. Something like that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think next year, especially with the cap going up,
Frank Clark off the books.
I think we'll see the Chiefs actually go out there next year and get a star player.
And before we move to the Eddie Hour, I do want to ask, because looking at this game, the way the run game wasn't working and the way that the Chiefs, although they were getting stuff in the pass game, I mean, didn't this game kind of tell you guys, though, that getting an OBJ would help out a lot, though? Because if you really think about it, like going down further into the season, teams are going to take notes of what the Titans did in this game and say, okay, make it work, make Travis Kelce work for everything he's got. He might get some flags or he might not, depending on, if Cleat fucking Blakeman's out there just throwing flags like Party City. But if that's not the case and he's not getting those flags, Juju Smith-Schuster's been productive. But wouldn't it be better to have Juju and OBJ as opposed to Juju and MVS, who's been so inept at times this season, where he's been non-existent? Like Trevor said, played over 50 snaps and did really nothing in this game. I'd rather have an OBJ out there.
Call me crazy, but I think what I've seen with Kadarius Toney with the nine plays that he was in there, and the 2 catches for I think 12 yards or something like that he had, I think showed me enough to put some in him and to see what he can be. He's probably gonna have a big game this weekend, especially with McCole Hardman being out. This either solidifies McCole Hardman leaving next season, and can also solidify us not requiring OBJ's services this season.
Look, if he is the reason why the Chiefs don't part with McCole Hardman, I think that's going to happen anyway. I think McCole's just going to be outpriced because the Chiefs have Juju to pay. But if Kadarius Toney is also the reason why they don't get OBJ, he better be a baller. And that's all I'm saying. I know Trevor had a take on this that we didn't get to talk about last week, but I just want to say that. If he's the reason that both of those things for sure happen, they pass on OBJ, who's a proven commodity in this league and is still 7th in touchdowns since he got drafted, and he's played very little over the last couple of years, then he better be at that level, because I don't see that yet. I really liked what I saw from him. He was twitchy. He looked good, and I think he could be a player.
Nasty.
I think he could be a player, but here's the thing. You substitute. I would be willing to let Toney have Sky Moore's snaps, and with McCole out this week, he'll probably have McCole's snaps, or at least a share. I would give him those opportunities, but that still leaves a void at the MVS snaps, because if OBJ comes into town, he's taking MVS's snaps, which I can live with, and I think we'd all be happy with. So that's what I'm saying, is I think that Kadarius Toney could exist in this offense, and so could OBJ. And my thing is, when you have Patrick Mahomes who loves to spread the love, why does it hurt to have that much more of a talented guy out there to give the ball to and let him create with his feet, which OBJ's been known to do?
Yeah, I mean, any chance we can get OBJ, I'm taking it. I want him here. I would love to have him here. Having another guy like that, and I one thing I know for a fact about Kadarius Toney, that he's better than every other receiver on this team, is creating space.
Yes,
Juju is very good at finding his spots, but he's not always been the best at like just stop on a dime and turn and create space and get away from a defender. He's okay at that, but he's more good at finding the spots to where to go, where Pat wants to find him.
Yeah.
That's when the play breaks down. You kind of saw that this past week, why he got so many targets, because he kind of mirroring what Travis Kelce does, is finding those spots when the play breaks down, or having a nice little curl route and then creating yards after the catch. He's very hard to bring down. That's not Kadarius Toney is tough to bring down for his size, but Kadarius Toney is incredible at finding space and creating space and getting the defender off of him, no matter who's on him. The guy's incredible. Go watch his film in Florida. The dude his routes were insane. His ability, he's so fast at just breaking on his routes. It's so hard for defenders' hips to stay with him. That's what his best skill set is. Very good hands as well. But if you can have 2 guys, OBJ's arguably the best ever at creating space like that. He's one of the best ever to create space, and his ability to run routes like that, elite. Still is very good. He was doing it last year with the Rams. Still very incredible.
I mean, now with 2 ACL tears.
Sure, that's the only question. That's the only question about him is his health. I mean, he seems to have bounced back from the first one pretty well. So he was a big part of that championship run there. So having 2 guys in the offense that can do that in incredibly high rates is, I mean, that would just put this offense over the top. So I'm 100% in on the sweepstakes for Odell. I think his odds of coming here are a little lower than a couple other teams. But if he really wants to win and he doesn't want to settle down somewhere, because I don't see him settling down in the Midwest, because I think he tried that in Cleveland and that bombed in his face. So I'm 100%. Yeah. I would love to have OBJ here for sure.
What I'll say about that is our guy Mark Gunnels, who, by the way, will be joining us next week, so be excited about that, because I know I am. Mark Gunnels had an interaction with OBJ, as we both know. Eddie, I talked about this as well. He actually made ESPN, where Mark was basically just having a jest, kind of a lighthearted mention to OBJ's tweet to Micah Parsons from the Cowboys.
Him and OBJ are boys. Just say that.
Friend of a friend. Now OBJ's a friend of a friend. And so, long story short, Mark was just basically pitching, hey, man, if you want to come to Kansas City, you got this, all these other cool things, and you can win, all this other stuff. And OBJ did put it out there. It's not out of the question. Literally his words, and, quote unquote. Now, there is the theory that OBJ is using that kind of tactic as a ploy to get teams like the Cowboys to give him long-term.
Puts everybody on the hook.
The point is he wants a multi-year deal, 2 to 3 years, which I get. You want to have guarantees in this league, especially as a player that's aging, multiple injuries, significant injuries, things of that nature. But there's also a report that's come out as well from his agent that said that OBJ actually wants to settle down because he's lived the rock star life, as he himself has said.
Yeah.
So my thing is this. If those things are true, if both those things are true, where he does want a long-term deal, he does want a nice place to settle with his family, The reason I think the Chiefs can still be in those for both of those qualifications is to what you just alluded to, Eddie, about the cap space. If OBJ is a guy that you can give a 2-year, give him MVS's contract.
Yeah.
That's what he's looking at right now. A 2 to 3 year deal worth $12 million a year. That's what he's going to get at best because of those injuries, because he's 30 years old now. That's what he's going to get. If the Chiefs were willing to give MVS that, then they would be willing to give OBJ that. And that's what I'm looking at from that perspective. That's why it still fits here in Kansas City. And when it comes to the hometown side of things, guys, we're all, Eddie, you've lived the majority of your life now in Kansas City. Trevor and I have both grown up here our whole lives. This is the perfect place.
We're not
for
OBJ
him to do
though, bro.
I get it, but I'm saying if his viewpoint is changing on no longer being the guy that bleaches his hair and lives in New York in the high rise and things of that, he has a family now, and his own words are saying, I want to settle down and plant my roots in a town. There are very few places in the world or in this country that fit that better from an economic standpoint, and you can win. Like, there's probably places out there that fit it better from an economic standpoint or maybe from a city standpoint, but they ain't going to give them a chance to win. The Chiefs give you both. Kansas City gives you both. That's all I'm saying. This does sound like a
Travis Kelce, and I think we all know. I think we're all pretty confident that Travis Kelce is probably going to spend, even after he retires, a lot of years here.
Absolutely.
He's going to
He's
stay
an
here.
ambassador for the Chiefs. Yes.
Right. So that definitely helps having connections with him with players on this roster already.
Right.
I know him and Juju are well aware of each other. They know each other fairly well as well. So. Who doesn't want to play with Patrick Mahomes and Coach Reed?
I got to give Micah Parsons some credit here because this poor kid, man, you can clearly tell he doesn't even understand Cowboys history because he marketed to OBJ about coming over here and winning a championship. I'm like, buddy, you've been aligned like 23 years, so I can't blame you. But the Cowboys have 3 playoff wins since 1996.
There's been better Giants. There's been Odell's been a part of better Giants teams since the Cowboys have been.
Like, you're not even winning your own division right now. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on the whole winning championships thing. You guys got to win a playoff game first, and then we could talk about that. Maybe not take a home playoff L to Jimmy Garoppolo. How about we do that first?
Odell in red and gold would be a beautiful thing, man.
It is time for the Eddie Hour. We do this each and every week. Eddie's got some thought-provoking questions in the world of sports. Maybe he might even talk a little World Cup if he's got some takes on it. I don't know. We're about a week away, Eddie. I mean, if you got something, let us know. Nevertheless, it is the Eddie Hour. What do you got this week, man?
That'll be next week because the World Cup kicks off on Sunday.
Badass.
So. All right, first question. I want to get your reactions to Steph Curry hitting a 3 for his 200 consecutive game.
You know what? The reason why guys like Steph Curry and Patrick Mahomes get compared to each other so much is because they are simply they're two individuals unlike anything we've ever seen before at their respective sports and positions. We've never seen anything like Patrick Mahomes having the greatest start to his career ever and plays the position better than anyone's ever played it. And Steph Curry shoots the ball unlike anybody ever, and it shoots it at a higher level. And he's simply at a level of his own. So when I hear stats like that, it doesn't even shock me anymore. Does it really shock you to think that he's done that for 200 straight games? Does it shock you that guy just had another at almost 35 years old? Undersized guard going out there and dropping 40 points for the second night in 3 games? Like, does it really shock you that he's playing at an MVP level, despite the fact that at the beginning of his NBA career had degenerative ankles? Literally had degenerative. And I don't know if you guys heard this or knew this. He has a problem with his eye where he's actually blind without contacts. So Steph Curry, despite all that, is putting up the greatest career from a shooter in the history of the NBA, and it's not even relatively close, both in regular season and in the playoffs. So to be honest with you, Eddie, I didn't know that stat before you said that, but it didn't make my pulse rise at all because I'm just like, yeah, that sounds like something Steph Curry would own. That sounds like a record he would own. He's going to own all the records when it comes to shooting, free throw percentage, all those other things. He's at the top at every level and on every list.
Scoring in general.
So yeah, he's a Hall of Fame player without question. One of the greatest point guards we have ever seen, if not the best at the time he's done, outside of Magic Johnson. I just think that he's made this game so much more fun than it even was before that, and it was a blast before he ever came around. He's elevated the way that the game is played. He's encouraged guys that are more quote unquote normal to play basketball. Think about it, Trevor. Like, none of us could ever beat LeBron James. You don't watch LeBron and go, man, I want to be that. I want to be 6'9", 260 and just play all 5 positions. No one's doing that.
There would be no Trae Young and players like that.
Guys that are 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot that are kind of wiry, maybe that have a good J, feel better about their games and their chances of making it big because of guys like Steph Curry. So it doesn't shock me at all, man. I love the fact he owns that, and I hope his career goes for another 5-6 years, man, where he can still just shoot the lights out of the gym and just continue to push these records further back, so we can say when we're 70, I saw that guy play. You know, I watched his whole career. I want to be able to say that one day.
Yeah, you could have told me it was 500 straight games, and I would have believed you like at face value. I wouldn't even.
And you should have made it up, like, dude, it's 1,000 games.
Yeah,
oh my God,
it wouldn't even have shocked me. And they had a big win the other night against the Cavs, which was a good game, and Steph balled out. Arguably the best scoring guard of all. Arguably the best scoring point guard. You know, guys like him, Kyrie Irving, AI. Those are all great, like, score first kind of point guards. And Steph's just he's still not missed his step with his jumper, man. The guy is incredible. By far the best pure shooter we've ever seen. You know, comes by it honestly. You know, Dell was a hell of a shooter himself. His father was a great shooter in the league as well. So he comes from a lineage of good basketball players and good shooters of the basketball. So Steph's just his legacy continues to grow and it's going to live on forever, man. The guy single-handedly changed the way the game is played. Single-handedly changed the way defenses are put together. He's just been a nuisance since he's been in the league, man. And he grew on me as a player. I thought he was kind of annoying at first. I'm not gonna lie. When he first came in the league, you know, chewing on the mouthpiece and all these little antics and the shimmy and stuff kind of rubbed me the wrong way a lot of times going. You know, when I first saw him kind of get going. But I love the guy, man. Him and Clay, guys like that, they've really grown on me as champs, as true champs in this league. And Steve Kerr's done a hell of a job coaching them into great men in this league as well. So kudos to Steph, man. He continues to climb the charts on damn near every point guard statistic. So yeah, the guy's gonna be an absolute legend when it's all said and done.
According to NBA history on Twitter, Steph Curry, 34 years, 242 days, is the 5th player in NBA history to record 40-plus points in back-to-back games at age 34 or older. The other 4, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Bernard King.
Damn. That's a great list to be on.
Yeah. Incredible score, man.
Yeah, I think he's the greatest shooter
for sure.
NBA history.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Should the Bills play Josh Allen through his injury?
No, absolutely not. And see, let me preface my take on this before I go into it, because of the fact that it's going to sound like I'm saying I don't want Josh Allen to play because we're Chiefs fans. We want to get that 1 seed. That is clearly the case. I would love Chiefs to get the 1 seed. I think we all would agree. But you know, there's a few things in this world I hate. I hate thieves, despise thieves. I hate people that abuse other people, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever the case is. You know what else I hate in this world? Seeing athletes get hurt. You watch any football, Trevor, we watch football games every week together. Eddie, you've watched games with us. When I see a player, it does not matter what team, what sport, when I see an athlete get hurt, I hate that so much because I don't know actually how much work these guys have put in.
It's their livelihood.
And their bodies, how much time they sacrifices, missing family events, whatever the case is. And to see them get hurt, and then they have to carry that off the field, because when we see it, we mentally check out and say, oh, you know, and then we go back to the game. These guys are having to deal with that 24/7 now. Guys like Klay Thompson, who had 2 full years, KD, 2 full years, and Eric LeGrand, or whatever his name was from the college, that got paralyzed. He has to live with that for the rest of his life on a special teams play.
They sign up for it, but yes.
They sign up for it. My point is that I hate seeing these guys get hurt. When I saw Josh Allen get hurt in that game, and I was celebrating because I knew the Jets were going to win at that point because they were just desperation heaving. When I saw him get hurt, man, it changed the whole dynamic of the game for me. I was like in a happy mood, Trevor, and I was excited as hell because I'm like, I'm gonna nail this pick. But when I saw him squinching at that hand, I immediately went to a pitcher position because I've seen that in pitchers so many times in the past. Even great pitchers, they start doing that with their fingers and they start looking at their elbow and wincing at their elbow. I knew that was going to be something that could threaten his season. So that's what's something that pissed me off, is I did not want to see, because I want to see the Chiefs get the 1 seed with Josh Allen fully healthy. And if I was worried about it, I guess I would ignore the fact that for the last 2 years the Chiefs ended the Bills' season. So it's not that I want to see Josh Allen get hurt so the Chiefs can already do what they've done for the previous 2 years. I'm not worried about Josh Allen as a healthy player. What I'm saying is, from a competitive standpoint, the league and everything as a whole is better when he's healthy, because he's one of the best players in the world. So I don't want to see him get hurt. I just wanted to throw that out there. I hope he can play this week, but he shouldn't play this week because of the fact that he's not healthy enough to. And how do I know that? He hasn't practiced all week. He hasn't been throwing the football all week. And Sean McDermott has been extremely vague, even going to the extent of saying it's hour to hour. That's a new one for me, bro. I've never heard. Andy Reid never even used that one. Eric Berry missed like 11 weeks due to being day to day.
We'll see how he looks at midnight.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to wake him up at 1 a.m. and see how his arm is. Oh, it still hurts? Okay. So this is clearly a tactic. Yeah, it's clearly a tactic from Sean McDermott at the Bills because they know that they want to play as close to the vest as possible so they don't give the Vikings anything because they know the Vikings are a really good team. They're 7-1 coming into Buffalo. Case Keenum's a good backup, but he's not going to be anything close to what Josh Allen is.
Case Keenum revenge game.
Josh Allen makes up for 82% of the Bills' offensive yards and 95% of their scores. So Josh Allen is extremely valuable. He's everything to them. If they're looking at this from the perspective of, okay, we either have risk the season by putting him back out there or risk a couple games, 2 to 4 games, still make the playoffs and then get Josh Allen pretty healthy. I think they're going to take door number 2, although reluctantly because you obviously want to play him every week, just like the Chiefs did 3 years ago when Patrick had his knee on the side of his leg. You still have to take precaution because these guys are not only the future of your franchise, they're the future of the NFL. So if I'm the Bills, without question, I'm resting him for at least 1 week and seeing how that arm heals up because that's a very serious injury. You see pictures, man. They even get a sprain like that and they try to go out and pitch again. They tear that. They're out for the next 12 to 18 months. You can't afford to have Josh Allen out for 12 to 18 months because then you're talking about 2 seasons being wasted. Then your entire franchise flips over. And if you look at the rest of the Bills roster right now, they're relying on a lot of older guys, a lot of veterans. So they're wasting a season or 2. They're wasting those guys and they're going to have to rebuild their whole roster again. This is the time for the Bills to try to beat the Chiefs. They got to do it now. So if they're smart, they rest them for at least 2 weeks.
No, I'm just kidding. So, long story short, no. If this was an ankle or a semi-knee tweak or something like that, yeah, let him go play. I wouldn't mind playing them. But this is an elbow injury. This is something that could affect his throwing abilities through the rest of the year. And he's gonna, possibly, yeah. And he's gonna. Surgery may be the end-all, be-all at the end of this to see how this goes. So the fact that he, throwing it can make this injury worse and prolong the injury, then it's a no-brainer not to play him. If, like I said, if it was like if you can tell him, hey, it's an ankle or it's a little bit of a knee tweak, just don't run the ball this week. Just get the ball out quick. Just throw the ball. Don't run on 3rd and longs or anything like that. Just I know that's hard to do, but just reel that in. That's fine if it was a leg issue or something like that, or a hip or something, or a slight groin tweak or something like that. That's different. This is what quarterbacks do. They throw the ball. So if it's an elbow or a shoulder, you can't risk that, man. This guy's about, and also for him and his personal brand, more than just the team right now, he's about to get big paid. You know what I mean? So Josh Allen is the future for that team and that franchise. So there's no way you play him this week, man. There's just not. You gotta be smart. You gotta be responsible for the guy that is the team. So yeah, it's a no-brainer for me. You sit him, and I don't think you should play this week for sure.
All right. Next question: should all football fields be natural grass instead of synthetic?
If I was to ask, 100 chefs, if a particular kitchen style or particular kitchen blade or having a particular kitchen staff would work better.
You prefer to cut your meat with butter knives or chef knives?
If I was to ask another professional in another profession what's best, and 100 of them say the same thing, probably means that's probably the right way to go, the right route to go. Literally every football player that's been quoted when it comes to turf as opposed to grass has all been pro grass. Literally, as pro grass as Missouri now is. It is something that I can't believe the league has even entertained to this point, to where you're seeing injuries singularly being taking place because of the turf. Sterling Shepard at the beginning of the season, who's having a very promising year for the Giants, literally just running a go route.
There's no give.
And his knee just pops.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of crap that happens to players every single week on turf.
Green concrete.
There's no give. It's not soft. It's not good on your joints, your hips. It's not good on anything on the body. It looks nice. It looks really cool, and it's probably easier to maintain.
Oh, it's cheaper for sure.
It's cheaper, but that also comes with a cost. Ironically, the cheaper shit's going to cost you more.
Yeah.
So I would rather deal with the cost of having a field. And this is the weird thing, is that I've been somebody that very much believes that every single stadium in the NFL should have a roller dome, where if there's bad weather, there's a lot of snow, rain, things like that, you have that ability to overcome that. But every single stadium should have grass, because every single athlete that I've heard that's played football has always been, blades of grass is so much better than dealing with turf because it's so much easier on our body. That's why guys like Travis Kelce are probably playing as long as they do. Can you imagine if Travis Kelce played for the Saints all these years? His hips and his joints would probably give out so much more often. So I would have to imagine that this is something that has to be considered and taken seriously in the next CBA that they have, with the NFLPA and the NFL getting together to figure this one out.
Well, yeah, and I'll say it, and just to quote Travis Kelce via New Heights podcast, he made it very clear that he'd rather play in the middle of a thunderstorm with the risk of getting struck by lightning than playing on turf. You know what I mean? So for me, it only makes sense that the NFL players would obviously not want to play on turf. They say when you hit the ground, you take a tackle. It's basically like getting tackled on concrete is what it feels like. There's no give, or you slide, it'll take skin. You know, I mean, if your sock slides up, and it'll take some skin with the sock. So I mean, yeah, and this has been known for years. You know, concussions are at a much higher rate when you play on turf. Injuries in general. You know, ACLs and non-contact injuries left and right when guys are just running by themselves and try to stop and break a route, and they pull their and they tear their ACL, little things like that. So, yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's players have been speaking out about it for a long time, but I just don't think they get taken too seriously. And unfortunately, a lot of guys have lost careers because of this. And it's. I don't know if it's ever going to change. I don't know, because money is king, and you save a lot of money apparently when you just use turf, but it can't cost that much more just to have somebody taking care of a nice grass field, even if it's in a dome. No matter what, you can find a way to get that done to protect it. You want to talk about protecting players? You want to talk about helmet adjustments and concussion rates going down because of the new helmets? How about we bring injury rates down a little bit while we change these fields back to the traditional football fields with some good old soil and grass?
Yeah, because to your point about that, about how they're emphasizing everything about the above the shoulders. Yeah. Well, with that comes lower extremity issues at a much higher clip now, like you said. Well, that's something you can't avoid, actually.
Yeah.
Not just by the rules and stuff of that nature where guys are hitting lower now, it's also protecting them on the field. Like we saw, Harrison Butker is still dealing with an injury for this very same reason, because of a shitty field, a shitty turf field of the Arizona Cardinals, which, by the way, are hosting the Super Bowl this year. Yeah. That's scary to think about, man.
Yeah, domes are the culprit a lot of times because they don't ever have real grass inside of domes.
This is something we should ask JD about when next time he's on our show, about what his experience is on turf as opposed to grass. Yeah. I guarantee you, I know what he's going to say.
Of course, you want to talk about grass.
Let's talk about grass.
The Cardinals have turf?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought it was real grass. They take it outside.
It's a roll-on. It's not real grass. It's artificial grass. It's not real grass. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Why the fuck do they put it outside then?
That's what because this is the whole problem they had with Harrison Butker, is it was all choppy and messed up, because he had a concert like the week before or some shit like that, so it all messed up. It isn't the same turf as like the Cowboys, but it's a different style of grass. It isn't the same grass as like the Chiefs have. It's different. It's very different, because the Chiefs can deal with climates, whereas the Arizona Cardinals, it's different. It's always hot out there. They're not dealing with real grass out there, is what I'm saying.
Well, all I know is that for the World Cup, they're gonna have to put real grass in there. Because no.
Yeah, they better. Yeah.
No. Like that's FIFA's requirement.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So Dallas Cowboys, LA Rams, all those stadiums are gonna have to put natural grass in.
Why do you think they were so big about the Chiefs having that? Because they already took care of that. We're good,
So, I mean, all right. I want to get your thoughts on Frank Reich getting fired, and then Jeff Saturday's hire.
Well, this is the part where I have to admit, because I was all here being, boisterous about the Jets beating the Bills and how I called that. The Colts are just an absolute abomination to the NFL right now. And it sucks, too, because Frank Reich, I thought, was a pretty damn good coach. He was 40-33-1 in his coaching career with the Colts. And the Andrew Luck retirement, really threw a wrench in their whole process of how they were trying to build things, because they were a good team in 2018 against the Chiefs when they went to the wild card game, or the divisional game against the Chiefs. They were 11-5, I think, that year. Good team, and I think Frank Reich was on his way, because I think if that next season, if Andrew Luck would have played, they had one of the better defenses in the league. They went 7-9 with Jacoby Brissett. They probably would have won an additional 4 or 5 games that year with Andrew Luck. So I think that's what kind of pushed it down this way, the roller coaster going downhill, because they tried to replace him with Phillip Rivers. Had a decent year the next year in 2020, then replaced him with Carson Wentz. Had a decent year, but it wasn't enough. And then this year's just been a drop off. Matt Ryan's just absolutely hit the wall. Sam Ehlinger looks absolutely terrible. And I think that Jim Irsay, being the reactionary coach that he is, or reactionary owner that he is, was probably sick and tired of the waiting, because he's been so used to having Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck, and you're in the playoffs every single year, and they are the 4th winningest team since 2000. All those things are true, but I think that Frank Reich playing a little bit of Rage Against the Machine with Jim Irsay when he said that I'm sitting Matt Ryan and he's out for the season when he didn't have to say that. That wasn't something he had to say. He could just say he has a shoulder injury. We'll see how he goes down the road. He was very emphatic about it. He didn't like some of these decisions that Jim Irsay made above him, making him get rid of Carson Wentz, who the guy that Frank Reich vouched for just the year before when he was OC a few years back with the Eagles. He was Carson Wentz's OC. So there was that connection. He made him get rid of him. It was very reactionary. And now we're seeing the process of what Jim Irsay is doing, hiring a guy that has no business being a head coach in this league right now. Jeff Saturday is a really good dude from everything I've heard. And it sucks because this hiring has put people on both sides of the spectrum in a really bad place and unfair, to be honest, because people in the league really like Jeff Saturday. He's a former great offensive lineman, 14 years in this league. People liked him from the football side of things. People like him on the TV side of things. But they all have to be very critical about this hire. And it really sucks that Jim Irsay's put him in that position and has put these people in the position to be honest about the fact he doesn't deserve this job. This morning, I had a debate with former Colts GM coach Tony Dungy on Twitter about this defense for the Jeff Saturday hiring. There is no defense for it. The reason why this type of hiring hasn't happened to where a guy has zero coaching experience in the college or pro level, the reason this hasn't happened in 61 years is because the fact it doesn't make sense.
It's stupid.
It is stupid. Yeah. It is a bad hire. And I know why Jim Irsay did it. Because they're buddies. And it's comfortable. It works for him. And he said in his opening presser about, I like the fact that Jeff Saturday has no experience. He doesn't have that fear. He doesn't work on analytics. And like our guy Joe Thomas on a Good Morning Football said on Friday morning, that is an absolute slap to the face of every coach in the league. It's an insult. Yep. And that's where the whole me and Tony Dungy's debate began on the Joe Thomas clip of him talking about how coaches have to sacrifice their own personal lives and affairs to be great at what they do. They don't see their families as much. They don't have a personal life. That's why a lot of these coaches coach into their 70s because they don't have a life outside of this. It is football 24/7. And so for you to dismiss the guys out there that are working their asses off in your own place, let alone to go and get a guy who used to play for you, who has no experience as a head coach, that is an absolute insult and is disrespectful to the league and to these people that are working their asses off to earn those jobs, which is why it was so confusing to me that Tony Dungy took the stance he took. I understand he's Mr. Colts defender. He coached there and he loves the team and all that stuff. But man, you should be standing up for guys like Reggie Wayne, who played for you too, who's been on that coaching staff for years now. Why is Jeff Saturday more qualified than Reggie Wayne? I understand that people are saying that these black coaches and the disparity of them getting head coaching job is still there. So why didn't they get that opportunity? And people are saying, well, you don't want this job anyway. It's a dead place right now. That's fair. I can get with that. But that still doesn't justify this hiring. There are still several other guys of all ethnicities that were far more qualified for this position than Jeff Saturday. I wish him the best because I think he's a good dude. And I think the players will like him, but is he going to be good at the X's and O's? Is he going to know how to do clock management? Is he going to know when to challenge and when not to? Is he going to know when to do things with certain personnels? I don't know. And no one does, including Jeff Saturday, who admitted that at his press conference. He goes, I have no idea if I'm going to be good at this job or not. I appreciate the honesty from him, but that, again, centers around the same point in all of this. He is not qualified for this job yet. If he wants to go and be an understudy and be an assistant, be an offensive lines coach for 5 years, and then gets a job, more power to him. You've earned that because a team saw you at your position, you owned it, like Mike Vrabel did with the line. I think he was a linebackers coach for years. John Harbaugh was a special teams coach for years. Mike Tomlin was a defensive, I think, backs or something, whatever he was for all those years. They got that job because they proved it. Mm-hmm. What has Jeff Saturday done? He played in the league and he became an analyst. That's nowhere near the same thing. So all in all, I understand that Jim Irsay wanted a difference maker at coach. Maybe he doesn't like the way Frank Reich is running things, and he's not getting what he wants out of it because Frank Reich's an offensive-minded head coach, and they have literally the worst offense in football right now. I can see why you would want to part ways with him. But you're going to go with that guy in replacement, you might as well have just kept Frank Reich.
Yeah, and I think Frank Reich's better off getting out of this situation. I think this is a bad situation. I think the barn is burning. And I think this is a definitely get out spot. And it kind of felt like there was obviously a lot of inner turmoil for the last couple seasons there. The team, one, just can't stay healthy all around. They have a lot of talent on this team, but they just can't seem to get it together as a cohesive group on either side of the ball. So that's a problem. And I don't think I still believe in Frank Reich as a coach. I think he could go. I think he'll probably go somewhere else as an OC somewhere. Maybe Jacksonville Jaguars. Maybe he can go work with Doug Peterson again because they worked together in Philly, right? Didn't him and
yeah. That's
so,
what I'm saying. He was the OC.
So yeah, that year they won the Super Bowl. So I mean, that could definitely be something that he can maybe get the best out of Trevor Lawrence or something. That'd be a good opportunity for him. Something I'm sure he's going to get another job somewhere else. So I think he's better off just getting out of this shit show here. Obviously, and the shit show continues by the hiring of Jeff Saturday. This feels a little Steve Nash-y to me. The way that Steve Nash just kind of got a job.
That's a good analogy.
In the NBA, to coach two superstars in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, with no real coaching experience at all. He was a great player, but no real coaching experience. So we saw how that worked out. He's got a lot of technicals and eventually got fired this season. So we'll see how it goes with Jeff Saturday. I'm expecting bad things, if I'm being honest, because his team's already bad right now, and I don't think it starts with the coach. I think this is just a hand-me-down situation to an old buddy, and that's just a shitty way to do business in the NFL when guys are much more deserving. It felt to me like how Tim Tebow just all of a sudden just became a tight end in the NFL and was getting jobs over guys that weren't even getting chances out of college that have worked their whole life to play a position. He just wants to be an ex-failed QB to play another position. Granted, it didn't work out either, but the fact that he was on rosters in place of other guys that spent their whole life trying to become professional tight ends that's just embarrassing to me. So this guy's getting a job as a professional NFL coach over guys that are far more qualified to do that. It's a slap in the face, like you said, and like Joe Thomas said, it is 100% a slap in the face to the guys like Eric Bieniemy, guys that have been vying for jobs every offseason and continue to get looked over, and now they're getting looked over by a guy that is being boasted about how he has no experience. That doesn't make any sense. There's no logic there. Nor do they care about logic in that kind of statement. That just makes no sense at all. So, with that kind of leadership for a professional team, that just shows you what the future holds for them. So, it's a shit show, man. I actually like Jeff Saturday. I think he's a smart guy. He was a great player when he played. Obviously, he was a great part of some great teams with arguably the greatest quarterback to ever play in Peyton Manning. I mean, as a player, that's one thing, but I mean, this is a strange situation. I've never seen anything like this in the NFL. Yeah. Like I said, Steve Nash was the only thing that, as far as American sports I could think of that just was a good player, just got hired with no experience.
Even Steve Nash was a part of I forget what team it was, but he was a part of the front office for years.
Yeah.
So he had more validity to that type of job than Jeff Saturday, who's literally just coming off the street. It's literally no different than hiring somebody off the street. Yeah. Because he has literally no experience to tell you that he can coach. At all. So
I mean, if he succeeds, cool, more power to him.
Yeah.
But this is just
what
optically from fans, from other coaches that are vying for jobs. Like I said, that's just it's a bad look from the leadership of the Colts franchise. So.
Yep.
What a way to come into the league and play the Raiders your first game.
But that's what makes this interesting. We're going to talk about that game in a minute. But that's what makes this whole matchup very interesting. I can't wait to talk about that game.
All right. Next question. We're going to go into UFC 281, which is tonight, I believe. There's 3 matchups I want to talk about, and the first one's going to be Frankie Edgar versus Chris Gutierrez.
Man, I would love to pick Frankie because of the fact that he's just a legacy guy. He's somebody I've watched for many, many years. He used to be he had the highest motor I've ever seen out of a fighter in the history of UFC, in my opinion. You could just go 5 rounds and not look. You could literally pull the clip from any first round to 5th round. You think it's the same round because it's just energy was always going. I'm gonna take Gutierrez in this one, man. I think that he's just at this point of their career is the better fighter. I'm pulling for Frankie, but my head's telling me Gutierrez, so I'm gonna go Gutierrez, and I'm gonna say it's TKO because Frankie's also been getting beat up a lot and he's been getting knocked out quite a bit. I just think it's that point of his career where it's just they're putting the name out there as opposed to the great fighter, and I think the Gutierrez is going to get him.
Oh yeah, and Frankie Edwards is damn near 40 fights deep in his career, man.
Right?
So, and he's a big underdog. He's a +90 underdog, +190 underdog, and Gutierrez is -230. So I mean, I think the money obviously is showing where everybody's going with that one.
Yeah.
And Gutierrez is the better fighter at this point.
Yes.
So this is an old Frankie Edgar, a great career. Like you said, one of the best motor guys ever. A guy that just will go and go until the lights come off, literally or figuratively. So yeah, I'm definitely going Gutierrez here as well.
Next matchup I want to talk about is Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler.
Yeah, so this is a fight that I've been waiting for quite a while because I know Michael Chandler, the big win he just had over Tony Ferguson a few months ago.
Kick.
That great kick. This is the kind of thing for a guy like Chandler, who's actually also advanced in his career as well, can give him that second wind. Because that was one of the best knockouts I've ever seen. That was unbelievable, especially against a guy like Ferguson, who's just a badass. Yep. I think Chandler's riding the hot hand here, and Poirier, who just lost a fight not too long ago. I'm gonna go with Chandler in this one. I like Poirier better as a fighter. I think he's actually the better fighter, but I think that Chandler's put it together a little bit, and I think this could be a little bit of a mismatch for Poirier because Poirier has also struggled against guys that can throw hands, and I think this could be one of those guys. Unless Poirier controls the ground, if he gets him to the ground and scores points, that's the way I think Poirier can win this fight. But if they're trading, I'm going to take Chandler in this one. I think that's when it's going to end up happening. I think Chandler wins by decision.
Yeah, I like the idea, though, that the matchups make fights, obviously, in every sport, especially in mixed martial arts, boxing of the sort, things like that. Literally styles in these kind of fights. With Poirier being the southpaw, I kind of like that way because Chandler's like that unorthodox kind of guy. Right. He's a heavy hitter for sure. Both these guys are heavy hitters. Both these guys are knockout artists, if we're being honest. Both these guys can each one get each other. And the fact that Chandler won the way he did last fight, which feels like forever ago,
right?
That knockout kick, to the boogeyman, which is something that was just you don't see happen to him often, like that lights out kind of situation. That guy usually just doesn't matter how maimed he is, he will just keep going. So that was a very impressive victory there for him. I just think Poirier is the better fighter still. I know he lost recently, but this feels like a great bounce back spot for him, and I think this is actually a bad matchup for Chandler. This is actually even match. I mean, they're both damn near the same size, damn near the same, obviously same weight, but the same like reach. Everything is, they're almost the exact same guy as far as build and everything like that. But I like the southpaw approach, the way that Poirier fights. I think his matchup is good for him on this one. I think it goes the distance, and I think it goes to the judges. I don't think either one of these guys knock each other out. I don't think there's a TKO here or anything like that. I think these guys have a lot of respect for each other. They're both pretty similar fighters, but I think Poirier is going to do more damage here and pull out the fight when it comes to the judges.
All right, I mean, there's a co-main event, but I'm not interested in that one.
Hey, Esparza, man, she's a beast.
Oh, I'm taking Esparza. Give me
Esparza. She's a beast, bro.
And that's no knock on Zhang. I like Zhang, but I'm taking Esparza in that one.
Well, you better put some money on that because she's plus 280.
I know, and it's the weirdest thing because Esparza. That's the thing is that
Esparza's a beast.
I'm not sure. I'm just gonna say it. The women fights are so unpredictable sometimes because you'll have a heavy favorite and they just get laid out. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in the guy fights, but you're starting to see the develop.
Like was it the last champion that you guys saw?
Exactly, Rose Namajunas, or whatever freaking name it is.
And women fights are actually even harder to predict.
Namajunas, Rose Namajunas, yeah.
Women fighters don't ever like knock each other clean out.
Right.
That doesn't really happen in female fights. Give
me Esparza.
They tap each other.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And Esparza is great on the ground, and she's a striker as well. And she's the champ. She's defending this title, and she's a massive underdog.
Yep.
Which is, I would put money on that. I might actually bet on these fights tonight. So, yeah, I would put money on Esparza as well.
All right, let's go to the fight that everybody wants to see. The fight that everybody has been waiting on.
Yes.
Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. 3 technically.
Technically 3, yes.
So
okay, so Trevor was talking about matchups and how, like, styles make fights. That is 100% what's going to be the difference maker in this one. So Pereira has 2 victories over Israel Adesanya in kickboxing. Totally different. I know that kickboxing is utilized at times in MMA, but in the UFC, but it's not the end-all be-all. We've talked about Israel Adesanya over the last several fights about how he's looked very sluggish, very unmotivated, scoring points here and there. People are getting pissed off at his performances because we know him as the airbender. We know him as a guy that makes entertaining fights. Yeah. And what have I always defended him on? I think it's because of the fact, like the Chiefs do with some of their opponents, they just kind of dog walk. They just kind of, we'll survive this one. We don't really need to put our best effort out there. We'll give them like a C+, B- average, performance out there, and we'll get the victory. More times than not, that's what happens, and that's what happens with Israel Adesanya over the last couple of fights. This is going to be different. Israel's going to bring his A+. He's going to come out here and give it everything he's got because this is a guy that owns him right now. But here's the thing: Pereira is coming into his domain. In fact, he's coming into his octagon. Pereira is still a very limited fighter in the octagon. This is not something he's been doing for a long period of time, whereas Adesanya has. This is going to be an advantage for Adesanya. Unless Pereira knocks him out again, Adesanya is going to pick him apart and get points. He's going to win this fight by decision. And in fact, I can even go as far as to say this could be a unanimous decision for Adesanya, because he's, to me, is the better UFC MMA fighter. And I think this is going to favor him, and he's going to want to drag this one out and make Pereira wear himself down by trying to land those big, heavy hits, by trying to take the finishing knockout hit on Adesanya, and Adesanya is going to outlast him. But don't make any mistake about it. Honestly, he's going to come into this fight and score points and make this one a fun one. It's going to be fireworks, and I cannot wait for it, and I hope it goes all 5 rounds, because I would hate it if this one ended quick, because this is the fight we've all been waiting for about a year now, and it's finally here, and I'm stoked about it.
Man, yeah, this is one of those gut checks right here for Stylebender, man, because this is a guy that's beat him twice. Obviously, like you said, kickboxing, which is similar outside of takedowns, which I think the only way Adesanya wins this fight if he's able to take him down and try to get some things going, because if a straight up fight, their hands are thrown, kicks are thrown, Pereira has shown to be the better fighter between the two of them standing up. It's just facts. I mean, kickboxing is basically what's going on when they're both standing up and fighting. And if that's the case, I'm picking Pereira here. I'm picking an upset. I'm picking him to take the belt here. I've never once picked against Israel. I just think I think there's a lot of juice to this, actually. I think there's more to the just be kickboxing. I think there's more to that. I think this is a very good opportunity for Pereira to stay in Izzy's head. Izzy's a guy that likes to talk a lot of shit. Obviously, he's very good at being the showman and things like that. The last couple fights, I have not been very impressed with him. He has been just kind of taking the points, which is fine. He's the champ. Do what you got to do to continue that. I think this is a kind of fight where Alex Pereira takes the fight to him, and which is what Izzy wants him to do. Most likely, most champs want the contender to become them, to bring the fight to them. I think that's what happens, and I think Izzy doesn't have a proper response, and I think he loses this fight. I think there's a possible TKO here, and that's wild to say. I know that's wild to say, but I think there's a good chance that he loses before the decision is made, and that's what I'm going with.
I'm with Trevor on this one.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Pereira on this one. I just think the way I've seen Adesanya fight his last few fights, it's been him just being lazy. I think him going into this fight that same way is what's gonna catch him slacking. He can't afford to do that. And I know you brought up kickboxing and MMA. He's the king of MMA or whatever. It's literally the same thing as to what Trevor alluded to. The only difference is just the takedowns. That's literally the only
Which
difference.
is a big part of the game, though.
Yeah. That's how I see Izzy winning.
Adesanya has to take him down, though.
Right.
So that
and Pereira is strong as hell.
Yeah, so,
and I think this is a beginning of a new legend here. I think this guy could become a big time fighter in this league for a good solid minute here. I think especially obviously if he takes this fight, this will put him right on the map. But I think I just like what I see out of this guy, man. I've watched his tape, and I just like what I've seen out of him. And this guy, man, if anybody can go out there and knock out Izzy out, he's done it before. So I think this is one of the guys that can do it.
And I think Adesanya has it in the back of his head. It's like, oh shit, he's beat me twice.
But also a guy like Izzy could use that as motivation to never let that happen again. He's the guy that would do that. But if I'm betting here, I'm putting my money on Alex, man. Yeah.
Same. There's somebody that commented, SKC music guy. Talk about the Chiefs that we were talking about earlier. Do you think they are focusing more on the pass game with the new wide receivers in warmer weather, and once the weather turns cold, then they will run the ball more?
That's actually a really good question. I think that the first part of the question is, I think that yes, they want to get these young guys gelled, and even the veteran players like Juju and MVS are new, so you can't even say that it's just the young guys. I think that they're trying to fix that because they do know at the end of the day it's going to come down to what Patrick Mahomes does that gets the Chiefs back to another Super Bowl. So yeah, I definitely think that's it. The weather aspect of it all, I don't know if that's really a factor as to why, because the Chiefs still throw the ball regardless of what the weather is. You've seen Patrick Mahomes' pass attempts per game regardless of what month it is.
He can spin it in anything.
Yeah, literally he can spin it in anything. As he said, hey, EB, I can spin it in anything.
Exactly.
Like that's not really I don't think that's the emphasis. Hey, let's make sure and get this done before it starts dropping into the teens. Because Patrick's going to throw the ball 35 times a game, no matter what the weather, temperature, any of that. So, but yes, the gelling part of it is the emphasis to start the season because they knew that if there wasn't time for them to get it going, it was going to be that first half with a gauntlet of games to be had. if they were going to get it through at that time, being the number one scoring offense, I think they've done just that.
I'm right there with you.
What's tomorrow? Kickoff is going to be 38.
Yeah, it's going to be cold tomorrow. I don't think there's supposed to be any precipitation, though. It'll just be a little chilly.
It'll be partly cloudy.
Yeah, no precipitation.
So, yeah. Snow on Monday, so be prepared for that, guys.
Hell yeah. I'm stoked. Great.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, that's a great Eddie hour, man. We appreciate it each and every week, as he does, and he always gives us thought-provoking questions. Next week, I'm definitely looking forward to some World Cup takes, get some predictions from our guy Eddie. Man, I'm so stoked. We're finally here, man. It's literally felt like 4 years. Actually, it's felt longer because of how different the world has been over the last 4 years as opposed to the last time this happened. Let's get to some Week 10 NFL picks, shall we, boys? So, the first game that I want to talk about is the first game of the slate. It's the 8:30 game in Munich, Germany. It is the Seahawks taking on the Buccaneers. It is technically a home game for the Buccaneers, but as we all know, that doesn't matter when it's overseas. As it currently stands, for whatever reason, the Bucs are 2.5-point favorites over a Seahawks team that have won their last 4 games, if I'm not mistaken. They're 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 45. Guys, you know that the Buccaneers have the fewest touchdowns in the NFL this season? Do you know that over the last 20 quarters, Tom Brady has 4 touchdowns? 4 in his last 20 quarters of play. They literally have the bottom running offense in the league. And, oh, by the way, they're still banged up across the board. They lost their best linebacker a couple weeks ago in Shaq Barrett. Someone's going to have to explain to me what real advantages the Bucs have here. Because the Seahawks right now have the better quarterback. They better have the better head coach, and it's not even close. And they have the better defense right now, too. Because over the last 4 games, the Seahawks are a top 10 defense across the board. And again, they have not lost since October 9th. What advantages do the Bucs have here that gives me any pause as to why I should not pick the Seahawks here? Geno is an MVP candidate. Their running back, Walker, their rookie running back, Kenneth Walker, has been unbelievable. And they have, right now, one of the 5 best corners in football, who is a 5th-round pick that they got in the Russell Wilson trade, which, by the way, they got 5 starters out of those picks that they got from Russell Wilson's trade. Yep. They fleeced the Broncos. Holy hell. Guys, the Seahawks are clearly the better team here. They are going to win this game. I don't even understand. Again, maybe Trevor, maybe Eddie, you can give me something on here. I don't see how the Bucs win this game because this is going to be a game that whoever scores 17 is winning this game. The Seahawks, over the last 3 games, are averaging over 30 points. It's the Seahawks. They're covering the points. It may be the over-under may not get covered, but I see the Seahawks winning this game. If I had to throw a score out there, 27-13. I don't think this game's even going to be that close because Tom Brady just doesn't have anything. They lead the league in drops, by the way. They can't run the ball, and their defense is just shredded. Outside of Vita Vea, they haven't had anybody that's even playing close to what they should be. And again, they lost Shaq Barrett a couple weeks ago. The Bucs are done. I mean, maybe they'll luck into winning this horrific division, maybe, but it won't be because they won this week. The Seahawks are beating them.
Yeah. Just imagine if Jamal Adams never went down for that defense either. I mean, he went down week 1. Week 1, man. Imagine if he was still part of this defense and growing with these young Bucs.
Yeah.
This team would be probably even better. So I'm bought in on the Seahawks. I think they're a playoff team. I think these guys are definitely firing on all cylinders with their offensive weapons. The receiving cores have woken up since last year. I mean, they were down a little bit last year, but this season they've definitely been on the come up. Kenneth Walker is an absolute beast. He's on my fantasy team. Shout out. Keep doing work, buddy. Probably the offensive rookie of the year, like you said. And this line is only because it's on a neutral field and it's an over-respect for Tom Brady and a disrespect to the Seattle Seahawks and what they've been doing. That's literally all that's why this line is what it is. There's no reason the Seahawks should be the dog here. That just makes no sense. But if you're a betting person, you want to make some money, here's an opportunity for you. So I think that this is just a lopsided line, if I'm being honest. I believe the Seahawks win by at least a score, at least 7 points. So if you want to make some money and bet on this game, tease it up a little bit with Seahawks side, go win some money. But yeah, I think this game is it's silly that this line is what it is. I think Tom Brady's looked pretty bad this year. And I know some of my friends I know that are Bucs fans, they think that last walk-off victory last week against the terrible, who might be even worse than the Bucs this season, terrible Rams team that have no offense as well. Happened to gift you a win. I don't see momentum coming off of that Cade Otton touchdown at the end of that game from Tom Brady. Tom Brady has looked bad this year.
The Rams handed them that game.
Yeah, so
Handed them.
I think that maybe the books are thinking there's some momentum coming off that game for Tom Brady. His offense is just so bad. So I think the Seahawks offense is going to test the defense and keep that defense honest from the Bucs side. And I don't see Tom Brady, in that offense from the Bucs getting anything going. I think the Seahawks win by at least a score. So, yeah.
Yeah, I got the Seahawks in this game as well. I just don't see how the Bucs can go in there and win. I don't know. We've seen the Bucs defense. It's not the Bucs defense that we've all known. Yes, they were ranked first when they played Kansas City, but they hadn't really played any real competition before the Kansas City Chiefs. And then after that, obviously they went, and then they had the 3-game losing streak, and they beat a Rams team with a lucky break at the end with the pass interference call. I just think the Seahawks are the better team, have the better quarterback. Honestly, like you said, Geno Smith's an MVP candidate right now, and we can't deny that. Pete Carroll somehow brought whatever was left from all these players, and especially Geno Smith, and put it out on full display. You know what I mean? Like he believed in Geno Smith, and Geno Smith, I think, is taking every opportunity he can and show us pretty much what he still has and is capable of doing. And I think having DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and obviously that rookie running back, it's going to be very hard for the Bucs to find a way to stop this offense, especially the way Geno Smith's been playing ball. It's very hard to find a way to contain him, to make him stop doing, making plays. So it's going to be very interesting to see that. And then you also playing in Germany. In Germany, we still don't know who's technically home or away.
Right.
They might be
the travel between the two teams is fairly even as far as miles. Because
no, I get it, but there was
people talk about the travel being more jet lag.
But you know how hard it is though to get tickets for that game. I think there was a 6 million people waiting list to get tickets for like a 62,000 seater. So,
well, Tom Brady's always a draw too. So there's
absolutely
no, but you gotta understand these are soccer driven fan bases, and these driven fan bases, they're loud when your home team, when your team is playing, regardless if they're playing offense or defense. So it's gonna be very interesting to see if they're loud on both sides of the ball and actually costing Tom Brady those offside penalties, the false starts, not being able to hear them. It's gonna be interesting to see. And then obviously I'm sure German fans will use this opportunity to boycott the World Cup that starts next week. They've been very, very vocal, especially the past two weeks, especially in Bayern Munich. We saw it last week at Bayern Munich's home game, their last home game. They had big signs of them protesting against the Qatar World Cup, and I feel like they're going to use this opportunity, especially because a big American brand exposure. They can. There's going to be more eyes on this game than there could be in the Bayern Munich game. That is more regional to Europe. So I can see them using this opportunity to how is the NFL going to handle that? How are the players going to be able to handle that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
German fans are one of the craziest out there, and so yeah, I will still see what's out there, but I do think the Seahawks are going to win this game.
Yeah, it's just to notate the Bucs have the ninth best scoring defense and 13th best yards defense, so they're still good. Losing Shaq Barrett though is going to hurt them down the road big time. And another factor is the fact that the Seahawks are actually 5th in sacks, so Brady's going to get plenty of pressure in this game, which I think is going to be the ultimate difference maker. I will say though, I think it would be great though if this game is actually tight. and the Seahawks are driving, and they're like on the 3-yard line, and Pete Carroll, instead of passing the ball on the goal line, decides to run the ball, and they win the game that way. Just as a fitting, nice little, comeuppance of what happened in that Super Bowl about 7-8 years ago. That'd be nice. Just throw that one out there. We also have a game. This one is noon slated. The Vikings are visiting the Buffalo Bills. Now, there's a lot of things that are being discussed outside of the actual game. We know that Josh Allen has suffered an injury last week against the Jets. We talked about it, the UCL sprain to his elbow, his throwing elbow. You saw the line initially. I think the first opening line was, the Bills -9, I think it was. So they were big-time heavy home favorites. Then we saw that Josh Allen wasn't practicing. Then, still did practice. It goes down to like 6.5, then 5.5, then 4.5. Now it's down to 3, -3 for the Buffalo Bills. The over-under is only at 43. So people are very much expecting Josh Allen to miss this game. I think Vegas knows. I think we all know deep down Josh Allen's not playing in this game. But here's the biggest thing. Not just losing Josh Allen, who's by far their best player. We know that. Most important player. They're also going to be without Greg Rousseau. And they're also going to be without Jordan Poyer. Yes, both of them have been ruled out. Those are two best defensive players outside of Von Miller.
And Von Miller's been a little banged up.
Von Miller's been banged up with that ankle injury. So they're banged up across the board. And they're going. And I know Elam's been banged up. Tremont Edmonds has been banged up. I don't know if he's going to give it a go or not.
Dane Jackson's always got something.
Always got something going on. That poor kid.
Yeah.
So the Bills are very much banged up, whereas the Vikings are coming into this game feeling very good, very healthy. 7-1. The only loss they've taken is a road loss in primetime to the Eagles, who are the best team in the NFC right now. Right. So the Vikings are coming into this game right now as it's currently standing as the 8th highest scoring offense. They have the 12th best defense in points allowed, and they are, as it currently stands right now as well, third down efficiency, they're not as good. They're about middle of the league right now. But see, third down efficiency, the Bills are number 1. But that has everything to do with Josh Allen.
Of course.
Go from Josh Allen to Case Keenum drops you about from 1 to like 22nd at best. So the advantages on third downs is going to be for the Vikings as well. And here's the other thing, guys. As great as the Bills have been at getting to the quarterback this season, the Vikings have actually been better. So in sacks this season, the Bills are 11th with 23. The Vikings are 9th with 24.
Yeah.
So, and they have their guys. They're all coming to this game ready to go healthy as hell. And the Vikings have actually been a decent road team as well. They have one loss on the season, was to the Philadelphia Eagles, but no one's knocking them for that. Guys, I feel the same way that I kind of feel about the Bucs-Seahawks game, that you're going to have to give me reasons why the Bills are going to be able to score enough points in this game. It'd be one thing if the Bills could run the ball. They had a good run game. I'd be like, okay, well, they'll be able to overcome this for 1 week. Case Keenum will do a few check downs, 17 pass attempts, but they'll rush for 190 yards, hit a couple ground touchdowns, and survive the Vikings, 20-17.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, as with their defense being so banged up, and also the Vikings being a team that can run the ball at an effective level. Banged up Bills defense has been giving up a lot of yards on the ground. Guys, I think the Vikings have a big favor in this, or should be the favorites in this game, despite the fact it's playing in Buffalo. And here's the biggest factor of it all. When it comes to Kirk Cousins, this is a noon game. I know it sounds funny, guys, but Kirk Cousins is terrible in primetime games. But he's actually really good in middle of the day games, noon games, 3:30 games. Like this all favors the Vikings, and I think they're catching the Bills at the perfect time. I'm not saying they're going to blow the Bills out. I think the Bills will fight. They're a team that is they're still very talented. They still have Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. They have a good offensive line. They have Von Miller still. Like, they're going to have guys out there that'll, and I'm sure Sean McDermott will write up a great game plan defensively. They're just not going to have enough, man. Losing Josh Allen and 2 of your best defensive players for this matchup against a very talented Vikings defense. I'm picking the Vikings to cover the 3 points. I think they win by a touchdown, but I think it could be a good game. But the Vikings I just think they're the better team in this particular matchup.
Yeah, anytime an elite quarterback goes down for their team, it drops your odds tremendously. And this happens to be a bad matchup, even if Josh Allen was playing. This is a tough matchup, I think. For this is a good matchup. If all these teams are both healthy, these are two very good teams. And the Vikings are a good running team. They can control the clock. Kirk Cousins can go out there and just manage the game and let Dalvin Cook work. And they've won a couple games like that this year. And I would say I would still give some hope to the Bills. Obviously there's hope, but I would give a little more confidence to them even if Case Keenum was the guy starting, and if they're like a really good running offense, but they're not. Josh Allen has been their running game. Devin Singletary has been a ball catcher really for them. He hasn't been a great runner for them outside of running against us, of course. But This is just a bad matchup for them. I think it was banged up as their defense is, like you said, and Josh Allen's out, which is most likely it's going to happen. I think they're just kind of pitter-pattering around it, trying to make it sound like he might have a chance to play. We all know he's not. I think Vegas knows that as well, which is why the line is what it is. The Bills still being the favorite. I think the Vikings win this game. Justin Jefferson is going to be a massive nightmare matchup for that secondary, especially as banged up as they are. They don't have a lockdown corner out there right now. And Justin Jefferson, even if you have a lockdown corner, doesn't really matter. The guy's insane, and the connection he has with Kirk Cousins is great. I think the Vikings go out there and put up points, and I don't think Case Keenum's going to be able to keep up with it. And he just doesn't have that connection or the ability to extend plays like Josh Allen does, and the connection with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis downfield. He doesn't have the arm to meet Gabe Davis halfway there. If Case Keenum's starting this game, I'm not picking the Bills. Case Keenum's a decent game manager, but a game manager needs a good running game, and they don't have that. So, for that reason, I'm picking the Vikings here.
For that reason, I'm out. Man, it's a tough one because I think the Bills still have a great team, even with Josh Allen being out. I think Case Keenum's he's a good backup. He's not a bad or terrible quarterback in any means. He's one of those quarterbacks that can get the job done if so he desires. It all depends on how he plays that game. But I'm gonna pick the Vikings in this game for the simple fact that I think they're just the better team. Honestly, outside of Josh Allen, I don't know if he's gonna play or not. But if he does, how healthy is his arm? How much can he throw the ball? If he's gonna throw the ball any, obviously I think the Vikings are healthier in this time of year. I just think Jefferson and whatever the Vikings throw at the Bills. Mm-hmm. We saw what the Jets did and how they're able to stop the Bills, and I think the Vikings are very similar. They're very rough. They play rough.
Well, T.J. Hawkinson, and the Vikings, I think they play rough. The defense plays rough, kind of what the Jets did, and I think that showed kind of like a blueprint on how to beat the Bills. Just gotta play rough, not let Josh Allen do anything he pleases. Just keep it in the pocket. And having Sauce Gardner helped a little bit with that. Jets
yeah,
he's incredible.
Yeah, but Diggs did burn him.
Yeah, but he had the last laugh though.
Yeah,
that pick.
With that pick.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the Vikings are the better team in this game. I don't know how healthy Josh Allen is. The Bills are dealing with injuries. I know their corner last week went down with an injury, Elam or whatever, their rookie. How healthy is he going to be in this game? Who's going to lock down Jefferson? He's phenomenal.
You can't play man against that guy for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely top 3, top 5 wide receivers in the league
easily.
So if Kirk Cousins just gets the ball out there, thankfully it's not a primetime game, so that's good. If he can just get the ball to Jefferson, to Thielen, to Hawkinson, I think this could very well be a touchdown or 2-score game. So.
Yeah, see, I will say this one more thing, and then we'll move on to the next game. But this game could be like for the Bills, like to make a case for them. This is the one way they win this game. It goes back to 2019. Ironically, Chiefs were taking on the Vikings at home. Patrick Mahomes was out with his knee injury. Chiefs win that game 26-23. You know what the deciding play on that game was? Damian Williams running for a 91-yard touchdown. That's how the Chiefs won that game, because Kirk Cousins was awesome in that game. He had 3 touchdowns. But the Chiefs had a massive play at the end of the game that gave the Chiefs that upper hand. And by the way, I was at that game, and that was 50-50 Chiefs-Vikings fans. I'm not kidding. Those fans were incredible. I always talk about that game.
Man, those guys
great. And I know they took advantage of the fact Patrick wasn't playing, so a lot of Chiefs fans probably sold their tickets. But it was great to see, and that play was the ultimate difference maker. Do the Bills have a player like that on their team? I don't think they do. And if they can get 147 yards off the ground, like I said, they could win this game. It can be an ugly game like that Chiefs-Vikings game was. Do I think they have that guy on their team? No, I do not. Yeah. And I think this Vikings team is better than that team in 2019 as well. So unless the Bills get something like that out of this one, a big miraculous play, and we know that Case Keenum's been a part of those, ironically with Stephon Diggs as well, back when they were on the Vikings. You know, the miracle, and if they can get something like that.
There is a cool little narrative heading into this game, though. The Cook brothers.
Yes.
They're both facing off.
That's pretty cool, too. A lot of weird, intricacies in this game.
So I think there might be a little juice on the Bills side to get to get Cook going on their side to see if he can outdo his other brother.
Yeah.
See who outmatches who. See who can control the pace and get the running game going. Because James Cook's a good running back. They've been giving him more opportunities lately. The Bills have to run because I think he's their best pure runner as far as a running back goes. Because they got rid of Zach Moss, so having him is like their true. Because they picked up Naheem Hines, who's just a scat back guy. He's not a true pure running back. So James Cook is their best running back. So I think him and Dalvin might go at it, see who can outduel who can have the better stat line at the end of the day.
Who's gonna win that?
Is it kind of cool? I mean, yeah, Dalvin's obviously the better back in the moment. He's on the better team right now as far as health goes.
Now. Yeah, just health wise. I'm not saying that the Bills are a bad team. No, it's just
absolutely not. This could. I expect this to be a competitive game because Case Keenum's not a bum. He can go out there and steer and guide the ship. It really just comes down to how effective the offense of the Vikings is. Because I think whoever is the most effective and has controls the clock, time of possession, things like that, and runs the ball well, that's who wins this game. I think that's the Vikings.
The game's in Buffalo, but with like Glenn said, with the cheese and how the Vikings travel well. Are a lot of Bills fans going to sell those tickets,
Right.
And Vikings are going to go in.
Why the Bills are probably holding off on giving that news till the last second.
Yeah.
Because they want as many Bills fans there as possible. So.
Yeah. So, but I'm sure Bills fans know, and I'm sure Bills fans want
they're
Josh
rally
Allen
either
to
way.
not play.
Bills fans are great, man. They're
Bills fans. I've seen some Bills fans on Twitter that want Josh Allen to not play for the next week or so.
Yeah. That's what they should want. Yeah.
So.
And then I think the game that I think is going to be the most fun game of the week is the Browns visiting the Dolphins. Now, that might not sound like a great matchup because the Browns haven't been a great team by any means this year, and the Dolphins are clearly the better team going into this matchup. The reason why I think this one's going to be a lot of fun is because, one, it's in Miami, which means it's going to be great weather. I think it's going to be 71 degrees out there, which is awesome for football. The Dolphins are one of the best scoring offenses in the league, but with that said, they're giving up almost 28 points per game over the last 5 weeks.
The Bears put it on them last
week. Their defense has been awful, and it shouldn't be. They have a lot of talent on that defense.
See,
they have no business.
Bradley Chubb can become a part of a player that's
and so what I'm looking at in this matchup is Nick Chubb. How well he can play, guys. You know that the Browns have only played 3 road games this season.
Bowl.
Yeah, Chubb Bowl.
This is the Chubb Bowl, bro.
This sounds dirty. The Chubb Bowl. No, the Browns have only played 3.
Chubb on Chubb action going on.
Hey, you got a chubby there. The Browns have only played 3 road games this year, and I got my numbers here.
Yeah.
They played 3 road games, and in those games, Nick Chubb averages 117 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in those 3 games.
Best running back.
Guys, I think he is the best running back in football. Derek John Henry gets a push, but Nick has been stupid good. Saquon Barkley, same thing.
Yeah.
But those guys have been stupid great. Nick Chubb has been unbelievably great. I think him and Kareem Hunt are going to have monster games in this one. Guys, the over-under on this game, the Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites.
Yeah.
The over-under is 49.5. Guys, this might sound like a hot take, and it's probably going to be. I think this game is going to have over 70 points. I think both offenses go off. Dolphins are going to score big. Now, here is a factor, though. I will say, the Browns got Denzel Ward back.
Their defense is getting better.
Yeah. And so Tyreek Hill is going to have some competition.
Miles Garrett's been turning it on last couple weeks.
But here's the thing. Mostert's been coming alive. Gesicki's been having a great season.
Jeff Wilson came alive last week for them.
Jeff Wilson, Jeff Wilson. Mostert's been solid. Yeah, you're right. Jeff Wilson was the running back that was awesome last week.
Yep.
Gesicki's been awesome, and they have Jalen Waddle, who I think is 2nd or 3rd in receiving yards this season.
Right.
So, man, the Dolphins are going to win this game.
The Browns could win this game.
I think this could be a really, really fun game, guys. I think this could go 42-37. I really think this could be one of those high scoring games. Hopefully this one is on CBS in our area because I would love to watch this whole game because I think both offenses are going to get off. But I think it's going to be tougher because Denzel Ward will be there. And Myles Garrett's always a factor as well. But Tua's been playing unbelievably. Tyreek Hill's always going to get his. Jalen Waddle is always going to get his, which is going to be the factor that I trust the pass game. The Dolphins' pass game over the Browns' run game, as crazy as that sounds. I just think they get more points at the end of the game. But Nick Chubb, it wouldn't shock me at all. This dude goes for 163 and 3 touchdowns. I think he's going to have a massive game, but I think the Dolphins capitalize and win this game by 5 or 6 points.
Yeah. I'm picking the Browns.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
I feel like this is a game where Tua struggles because Tua's been riding high. So they're undefeated when he starts, and he's getting all this praise, and he's been great. And I'm a supporter for Tua. I like Tua, who the person and the player. This just feels like a letdown spot for them at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They barely pulled out that victory against Justin Fields and the Bears, right? And they could not stop the run at all against the Bears.
Then again, it is the bye week next week for the Dolphins, so maybe they just put it all out there. I don't know.
For
You're
sure,
right.
that's
Yeah,
possible.
I like
but
that.
I can see this. This could be a game where Myles Garrett wrecks this game for Tua, because Tua's not. He's known to hold on the ball a little too long sometimes,
Yeah.
and can take some hits. Granted, the scheme that McDaniels has been putting out there is incredible. He's a schematic brainiac, man. The guy has got a bright future in coaching, and I could be very wrong on this. This definitely feels like a game that, to me, should be more of a pick'em. Because look, I mean, listen, remember how confident we were in the Bengals going out there and destroying this Browns team? They went out there, the Browns destroyed them.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's against another quarterback that holds on to the ball a little too long, and Joe Burrow.
I think Joe had lost like 9 straight primetime games, though.
Granted,
Yeah.
the Bengals were without their number one weapon, and Jamar Chase, and this offense of the Dolphins has everybody, and they
Yeah.
added Jeff Wilson, who
Yeah.
actually really looked really good in that second half of the game last week. And I'm not very confident in this pick, but this just feels like a good spot to pick the Browns here, because the Browns are really reeling here to try to make a playoff run, because they know they're getting Deshaun Watson back in a couple weeks, and they can win this game. This is a huge game, preparing for Deshaun to get back. If they had this win under their belt and they have Deshaun coming back, that's a massive thing. So I could see this being a game where the defense of the Browns, who I think is getting right, they're getting a lot more pressures on the quarterback. And if they can pressure Tua and make it, and, he's known to make some mistakes here and throw some bad picks. I think this could be one of those games where he's kind of due for a performance like that. And this could be the team that can do it. And I believe in Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb to go out there and dominate the time of possession here and have long drives, because Browns are great at having long drives and just finishing them and pounding them. If they get a first and goal, they're going to run it 3 straight times, and you're not stopping them. You know what I mean? They're going to get it in there. And the defensive front for the Miami Dolphins has not shown that they're able to stop the run yet. And do I think it's going to start now against Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb? I don't.
Right.
So I think this is a game where it comes down to time possession. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as you're alluding to, which that could happen. But high scoring means the ball needs to be thrown a lot, and I just don't see the Browns throwing the ball out with
Jacoby
Jacoby Brissett.
But Amari Cooper could have a big game.
Oh, for sure. And he's been doing
Yeah.
well the last couple of weeks. He's had some big performances this year.
Just a side note, for the Browns, 4 of their 5 losses, to your point, have come by less than 3 points or less.
Yeah.
I mean, they blew that game against the Jets early in the
their
year.
record should be far better.
They blew that game against the Falcons. They blew
Right.
that game against the Chargers, and they blew that game against the Baltimore
And I'm telling you,
Ravens.
and I gained a lot of respect in that Bengals game, because they absolutely manhandled that team. That's a well-coached team,
Yeah.
a great quarterback, great young quarterback. Still had T. Higgins and Joe Mixon, who obviously just had 5 freaking touchdowns this past week. Those guys are all capable of doing that. They shut their asses down.
Well,
right?
and the Dolphins don't have a lot of easy victories after this one, so they better get this one, because after that, they have the Texans, which they should beat them in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But then they go to San Francisco. Then later on, they have at Buffalo. They go at New England, and they have the Jets to finish off the season. Those could all be losses.
The way I see this game going is,
Yeah.
I think the Browns start early. I think the Browns have a really good opening possession, and they have a long drag out possession where that's like 15 to 17 plays, and they get down there, and then Nick Chubb. One of the running backs scores here in this possession, and they score early, and I think Tua is kind of forcing the ball to Tyreek to really get some momentum going, and I think he underthrows one, and there's a pick or he fumbles it. I think there's an early turnover here for the Dolphins that can sway the momentum of this game, and I think the Browns ride that high, and I think they win this one.
I'm gonna go with Dolphins on this.
Yeah.
It's a fair point what Trevor said.
Football's been weird this year, man.
They very well could go in there and dominate the Dolphins and just dominate the game and shut them down. But I just think having Tyreek Hill, Waddle, Gesicki, these players, I think it's just gonna be a little way too much for the Browns to handle. I guess if they can get Tua early, put that pressure on Tua. Obviously, with the injuries that Tua is dealing with, I'm sure he's going to want to get rid of the ball before he gets hit. And I can see one of those mistakes where he throws a pick just because he's trying to get rid of the ball.
He's an undersized guy. He's known to throw some batted balls. Sometimes get bad at the line.
He's been known to throw guys, quote unquote, open. We'll see how that goes in this game. But like I said, they have playmakers in that team. I think that team is very well coached. That team can go off at any moment. And especially like Lance said, they're going into the bye week next week, so I can see them going all out this week and saying we're gonna have a extra week to recover.
Yeah.
If we put it all out, out there. So I think it's going to be a very close game early. I think second half, I think the Miami Dolphins are going to start taking over towards the second half, kind of controlling the game, controlling the clock. So I can see a 7 to 10 point game victory for the Dolphins in this one.
Then the final game I want to touch on, there's a lot of good matchups, but I want to just put out 3 or 4 this week. Then we'll give our full slate of picks as we do each and every week on Sunday morning on our social media platforms. We have the Colts going to the Raiders as a game that we kind of alluded to earlier when we talked about the Jeff Saturday hiring as the Colts head coach. If you look at the Raiders' schedule this year so far, they have faced some of the worst head coaches in all of football. Start the season off, they played Brandon Staley. They played Cliff Kingsbury the week after that. A couple weeks after that, they played Nathaniel Hackett with the Broncos. They faced Lovie Smith. I love Lovie, but he's not a head coach in this league. Then they faced Dennis Allen with the New Orleans Saints. And now they get to face Jeff Saturday, who, despite all those names I just listed, is by far, at this point, the most unqualified and worst head coach the Raiders will face all season. And the Colts have been nothing short of a just dismal nightmare, especially for people like me who were big on them to start the season. We don't even know what quarterbacks are playing. We even heard rumors yesterday that Matt Ryan might actually play some in this game. They have Nick Foles on their roster, which I don't understand why he's not playing at this point. If they're trying to salvage it, which makes me believe, because of the fact that at this point he's their best quarterback, they are tanking this season. They put a nice face on it. You know, Colts fans love Jeff Saturday, and he's going to give it all. Like he likes to say, I'm going to give it my all. Yeah, the Colts are terrible. And I know their defense is decent, but last week, guys, do you know that the Patriots sacked them more times than they allowed first downs? They had 9 sacks to the Colts' 6 first downs. Yep. I know the Raiders suck, and do they suck. But, guys, Josh McDaniels has all the pressure on him in this game. Because if he loses this game, he should be fired. They don't have Darren Waller. They don't have Hunter Renfrow. They literally had their best linebacker who led them in tackles last week retire this week at 28 years old. The Raiders are a joke, but the Colts are an even bigger joke. I'm taking the Raiders in this one in a very ugly, irrelevant, laugh-out-loud kind of victory. I think it's going to be like 16-13. I don't think this is going to be a fun game at all. The only thing that's going to be fun is everything that's surrounding this game, is which coach is going to shit his pants more. And as you guys know from day one, I never believed in Josh McDaniels. He is a better head coach than Jeff Saturday to this point. I'm taking the Raiders, who are the better team. Not saying much, but I'm going to take them in a close, ugly home victory over the joke of a Colts.
Yeah, it feels like 2 teams that are tanking are facing off. I mean, Hunter Renfrow going to IR, Darren Waller going to IR. They straight up cut Abrams. So there's just a lot of both these teams are just. It feels like just they've closed their books. They're ready to go home. School's out. So yeah, put on their nightie and just call it a night. You know what I mean? So this is I'm picking the Raiders here too because I feel like they have a little bit more to play for. Like you said, Josh McDaniels with his coaching future possibly here. Derek Carr for a little bit of pride, whatever's left in this team. And then I think this is a squeaky wheel game for Davante Adams. He's been calling everybody out. He's been calling the coach out. He's been calling Derek Carr out.
10 weeks in.
Yeah, I mean, he's calling everybody out. You know what I mean? So it just feels like a squeaky wheel. He's probably going to get like 15 targets. They're going to just probably try to get those stats up a little bit, make this year look like he did something this year. He had a great first half last week, and they completely went away from him. And then they ended up losing and blowing another 17-point lead. It's amazing. I feel bad for Raiders fans. I'm basking in this a little bit. So with all that preseason shit talk that was going on, I'm basking in this a little bit. So I think this is a big game for Davante Adams. I think he goes out and he shreds that secondary, and I think Derek Carr just pebbles them with targets. So Raiders win. I'd say they probably win by a touchdown. I don't know. I don't even know what to expect from the Colts, honestly. So Jonathan Taylor is healthy and is a full go. So there's an opportunity where he really gets going. They can control the game that way, which is very possible because the Raiders have not been able to stop the run or anything defensively, really. So they're good at getting at the quarterback, and I think Max Crosby can have a good enough game to slow down the quarterback there for the Colts. So with that, I'm giving the Raiders the nod here.
I think we're all agreeing with the Raiders on this one. Yeah. That's a shocker.
Jesus, now I'm nervous.
Colts won 27-3.
Right. Nah, it's just I can't really trust a coach that's coming into a league that's never coached before. That's actually not going to call the plays. He's calling what was it? His quarterback coach? No, what coach was calling plays?
Yeah, so like
It's not even the offensive
his name's
coordinator.
like Parker or something. He's some like 30-year-old kid.
It's not even the offensive coordinator.
Might end up. Yeah, they fired their offensive coordinator the week before they fired Frank Reich.
They don't like experience over there,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, makes sense.
I mean, we can't experiment during a fucking actual official NFL game. I think
I'm
that's
gonna
something.
apply. I'm gonna.
Yeah, that's something that has to be done in the preseason or before the season starts. You can't just bring in an inexperienced guy and expect to win. Obviously, they didn't even know who was gonna call plays up until 2 days ago. It's just a bad situation for the Colts. I think this is a bad matchup for the Colts going into this weekend, just for the simple fact of the week that they've had. And like Lance said, it's like they fired their OC the week before, so it's a complete mess down in Indianapolis. They might only be running the ball tomorrow. We don't know.
Jonathan Taylor
Do
getting 30
they even
carries.
have any draw plays? Like, what kind of plays do they have? Other than Madden plays, we're gonna see probably a bunch of Madden plays out there.
Jesus.
That'd be funny if they actually had the Madden video game. Like
He's
right
on the
there.
tablet playing the game. All right, we should do a left cross.
What are the coach suggestions? Go to the coach
slant.
suggestions.
HB power toss sweep. Oh shit! No, I audible.
It says kneel.
Slant. But quarterback, can you press Y when you
It says punt. It's second down.
follow the
Punt.
follow the red receiver, the red line receiver? God, dude, it's gonna be bad. I just think the Oakland Raiders. I think they're gonna have Devontae Adams win this game for them. I think with what
have a big game.
Yeah, with what he's bitching about and everything, I think it's time for them to be like, all right.
Doesn't this feel like one of those weeks that's like a how did we get here kind of like week? Like as great as the product is, the NFL, like we look at these two teams in this match, like how did we get like what happened? Like
how are we here?
How did you fuck things up so bad that both you were this bad in this
Are they
particular
both
matchup?
2-win teams?
2-win teams, man. Oh no, I think the Colts have 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're 3-4-1. If I'm not
Okay,
mistaken.
so they have to let
I
the
think
Raiders
they're
win.
3-5-1,
They tied with
3-5-1.
the Texans.
Okay, so they have
Yeah.
to let the Raiders win.
Yes.
Okay.
They're still bad.
Is there any good quarterbacks coming out of college?
Oh yeah, was it Bryce Young?
Ooh.
Yeah, he looks pretty good.
Ooh.
I don't know. I haven't even dived into college football yet, man. I haven't even looked at the stock.
Might as well now.
I'm sure
we're
there'll be
halfway through
2 or
the
3
season.
guys.
The Raiders fans don't want to stick with Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr might be seeing his last snaps.
It's definitely a possibility.
with Las Vegas Raiders. So
Yeah, no, I do think
Fans are turning on him
just
for
to
sure.
throw that out there. I do think this is Derek Carr's final season as a Raider.
yeah,
And it's because
Still
I think
under
it's,
contract,
I think
but
it's but they can get out of his contract. I think of less than $12 million.
For sure.
This is a mutual thing. I think he realizes I'm in my 30s now. He's not won anything. Things are not going to get any easier because Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert are going nowhere.
I think it's best for both to move on.
Yeah,
from
I think
each
they're
other.
gonna.
I think this marriage is
He'll
over,
probably
to
be like
honest.
he'll probably be the Carolina Panthers quarterback
It will
next year.
probably be good for Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I mean, he could probably go play good somewhere else.
Because you don't know how the fans are going to react if they bring him back next year. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
give him.
If he
give
goes
him,
like Washington or
No, I'm
something,
saying like
that's
give
a
him
good
DJ
spot.
Moore. Give him DJ Moore in Carolina. Let him go be the Carolina Panthers starting
Because
quarterback.
Derek Carr's a good quarterback.
Yeah,
he can go play somewhere else.
Go to
Yeah,
Carolina.
that's a
or
team I can see
Washington.
happening.
Have Baker or Sam Darnold be your backup. And,
Yeah, well, I think both those guys will be gone. I think PJ Walker will probably
I
still
think
be on the
Washington's
roster.
a good quarterback away from being a really good
We're
team.
so far away from any of this happening, but yeah,
But-
that's the first team that came to my mind. Is
fun
the
to think
Panthers.
about,
But yeah, I just don't see the Colts having any real shot at winning this game. I don't see it. Yes, Jonathan Taylor's coming back, but how healthy is... Yes, we were saying he's healthy, but how healthy is he
Even when
really?
he's been healthy, he hasn't been that good this year.
Yeah, so
For being honest.
it's a
He just
terrible
hasn't.
offensive line.
Yeah.
Like, you can't expect that much from it. Max Crosby has been having a great season.
Yeah.
And it's not like the Raiders are losing, like, by blowouts. It's like one
They just
score
blow
loss.
games.
Yeah,
that's coaching.
one score loss games. Like,
Yeah.
literally, that's
I mean,
it.
Derek
3
Carr
points,
said-
7 points,
Derek
6
Carr
points.
said it himself in the press conference. He's like, we got to realize that there's 4 quarters, not just 2. We don't play just 2 quarters. Jesus Christ.
2.
I mean, Heavenly Father. Father
3,
God.
4.
Yeah.
I think there's 4
Yeah, I
quarters.
think there's 4. Yeah,
Maybe,
I
I
have
don't
2
know.
eyes, 2 eyeliners. That's 4.
Jesus.
Yeah, but
Jesus.
yeah, I think the Raiders have the better running game going
Yes.
into this game.
And Jonathan Taylor is a great running back, but he's been terrible. this year.
Yes, like I said, there's no offensive line to really give you anything.
And they're the highest paid offensive line in the league. And they've been tired. They've been terrible.
So, yeah, I'm picking the Raiders.
Yeah. So long story short, those are our 3 or 4 picks of the week that we like to do each and every week. Let us know if you guys have any other picks or games that you're looking at. We'd love to hear from you guys. Hit us up on our YouTube channel. But we're going to get to the matchup of the week that we do each and every week. It always involves the Chiefs, no matter who they're facing. It is the Chiefs hosting the Jaguars. This is a back-to-back home game against an AFC South opponent for the Chiefs. The Chiefs come into this matchup as 9.5-point favorites with that over-under of 51, which means that Vegas is fully expecting there to be a lot of points in this game and for the Chiefs to have a comfortable win, despite the fact there's a lot of points. Usually that means that the teams are throwing blows. As we discussed at the top of today's show, we were expecting that same scenario last week, and so was Vegas, with the Chiefs being 14-point favorites. With an over-under of 45, and it was anything but that. It was an ugly, just low-scoring game. I think it was total 37 points. The Chiefs are a very streaky team this season, both positively and negatively. I'm going to break these down real quick for you guys. Let's start with the negative. The Chiefs have 6 wins and have won all 6 games in patterns of 2. The Chiefs have literally won 2 games, lost 1 game 3 times this season. How wild is that? They'll go on a 2-game winning streak and then lose a game. The Chiefs are currently on a 2-game winning streak, which, as recent history shows, tells us that we should anticipate a loss for the Chiefs this week. Not to mention that despite the fact that the Chiefs are 3-1 at home, just like they are on the road, the Chiefs are only scoring 24 points per game at Arrowhead this season, whereas they average 37 points per game on the road. Just wild. So although it's always nice for teams and fans when they're at home, the Chiefs haven't been nearly the same, at least offensively at home, as opposed to on the road. Which leads me to my positive side of the streaky Chiefs and what they've been this season so far. The Chiefs have been incredible at bouncing back from a mediocre to bad offensive performance this season. After the Week 3 loss in Indy, the Chiefs put up 41 points in a 10-point win over the Bucs in Tampa Bay. After their home loss to the Bills, when they only put up 20 points, the Chiefs went out to Santa Clara and hung 44 on the Niners and won by 3 touchdowns. Now, you can make the case that both of those bounce-back performances came on the road, which, again, the Chiefs have clearly been better and played their best football to this point of the season on the road. But if there was a get-right game for the Chiefs offense at Arrowhead, it would be this week against a Jaguars defense that's 24th in pass defense, 23rd in sacks, 1-3 on the road, and is allowing 25 points per game on the road, which would rank them dead last in the league in points per game allowed. So for that fact, I'm going to side with the positive streak for the Chiefs because one of those poor offensive performances came in an early season bad loss to the Colts when the Chiefs did literally everything wrong. Missed opportunity across the board. And just bad officiating. We can go down that list, but I'm not going to do it. And in their poor offensive performance, they came in a 4-point loss to the Bills when the Chiefs left 10-plus points on the field in red zone turnovers and missed field goals. I view the Chiefs as a bounce-back team, and quite frankly, I don't view the Jaguars as a team that can put up enough points on the road while holding the Chiefs down enough offensively to win a game like this on the road. And although the Jags can run the ball very well, I mean, they're 4th in the league in rushing right now. Travis Etienne's just been an absolute animal. They are only 18th in scoring and 22nd in pass offense. So even if Travis Etienne goes off, and my God, he's been going off. For the last 4 games, guys, he's averaging 116 rushing yards. He's been stupid awesome. Yep. We've seen how much that simply hasn't mattered this season, and in particular, the Patrick Mahomes era. The Chiefs this season are 4-1 in games when their defense allows 100-plus rushing yards, and are 36-14 since 2018. So it does not matter if the Chiefs give up 100-plus rushing yards. We saw this just last week. What they're going to need is Trevor Lawrence to make scoring plays and scoring drives in the air. And he looked really good last week against the Raiders, but that was the Raiders' defense, if we're being honest here. I am expecting the game I expected last week to take place this week when it comes to the Chiefs' offense and their streaky numbers and the way they prove it to me by doing what they do positively. The Chiefs have failed to score more than 20 points 3 times this season, and after those first 2 times, the Chiefs dropped over 40 points in those games. I am expecting the Chiefs to keep that streak alive this week and cover both the spread and the over-under. Trevor, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually think this is going to be a semi-shootout. I think both teams are going to be able to put up points. I think Doug Peterson's really going to get up for this game. I think he has good reasons to, and I'm a believer in the Jags still. I know they've been an underwhelming team, but I think they're better than what their record shows. They've lost. They found ways to lose games instead of win games, but they've been in every game. This is a team that was up 14-0 on the undefeated Eagles. Had every right to win that game, but they found a way to lose it. Granted, the Eagles found a way to win as well. They're a great team. This is a team I still believe in. I think they're going to come out and be very competitive with us. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to get a good groove going. I think he's going to feed off that last performance last week and being down multiple scores and finding a way to win that game. Granted, it was against the Raiders, but I do like this game as an over. I think there's going to be a good amount of points scored here. ETN frightens me. That guy just knows how to find the hole and hit it and just go. He's very fast downfield. It's tough to stop in the red zone. They're a good running team, and they have speedsters, and Christian Kirk, and Zay Jones is a good route runner, good guy to create space and get some, move the sticks, and also the same sentiment with Marvin Jones Jr., who's also a good move the sticks kind of receiver, possessions guy, good red zone guy. So I think, and they got a good tight end also in forget his name. Either way, they have a good tight end there. Evan Ingram is the name of the tight end there, who's an ex-Giants tight end who's been really good this year as a receiving tight end. So they got weapons, and I think they can put up points. We've struggled against the run, man. I think we're going to play some bend don't break. We're going to let them run a little bit, but I think they've been fairly good in the red zone when they get down there and they put up points. So I think Doug Pearson's going to coach his ass off in this game. I don't think they win. I think we win by at least a touchdown here. But I do think it's going to be a competitive game for most of it, and I think we pull away. But I think it'll be a little bit of back and forth here. I think Pat's going to ball out. I think Pat's due for a big game here, bounce back game here. I think Kelsey has a big game. I think Kadarius Toney scores in this game. I think we
I like that.
I think we I even already put a bet on it. I think we have a red zone package ready for him to go. With McCole being out of this game, I think it opens up for like some jet sweeps for Toney. I think we kind of get him, feeling out a process for him in the jet sweeps, kind of because he's a similar kind of guy. He's really good at those. And I think we find a way to get him a touchdown here. I would like to see a running back touchdown, but honestly, I can't predict who it would be. And this is honestly a tough team to run against. Yeah, this Jags defense has been a stout front. And they are not good at. They haven't accumulated a lot of sacks, but they are good at getting pressures. They have two very good edge rushers, and Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. So I think those guys will give Pat some fits. But I really hope for their sake they don't blitz, because if they blitz Pat and they get him to pick that secondary apart and he evades the pressure, it's gonna be a long day for that Jags team. We know what Pat does against that kind of defense. So I expect him to try to play as man as much as possible and maybe some zone, some soft zone, because that tends to slow us down sometimes, even though Pat's the best against the blitz and the zone most of the time. I expect us to score north of 30, 35 points here and win by a touchdown. I'm thinking, us in the 30s, them in the 20s. That's how it goes. But I would definitely take the over here. I think this is going to be a fun, fast-paced game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game as well. I think both teams are going to trade blows for the first 3 quarters. And then I think the Chiefs are going to start realizing, it's like, okay, we got to get our shit together. Let's get this W. And I think fourth quarter is when the Chiefs are going to start dominating the game. And the score, it'll probably be like a touchdown, 10-point game again at the end of the game. But it's going to be a lot closer than what the score suggests, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I think the Jaguars have a good front seven. I think if they put the pressure through Wiley, and I mean they can get to Pat. They can get to Pat, especially the way Wiley's been playing this season. I think Josh Adams on that side, I believe.
He kind of rotates.
He can kind of rotate, but I think with who you rather pair him with, Wiley or Brown? You know
I don't like him against him or Trayvon Walker, honestly. But
yeah, so you could put Josh out on that side and then just have him go against Wiley. Gets beat quite often now. So unless Niang's healthy enough to give it a go,
I don't even think he's been activated yet.
Yeah.
I think by the Rams game we'll see Niang. I think that's in a couple weeks. I think that's when we see him.
But I think Patrick Mahomes, if you blitz, it's gonna be a long day if they can get to Mahomes with 4 guys or 3 guys. If they can get to Mahomes with 4 or 3 guys, it's going to be a very, very long match, kind of like the Titans kind of game. But if they can't get to Mahomes unless they blitz or they do disguise some kind of blitz or something, then Patrick Mahomes is just gonna tear him apart. I think it will be a bigger score margin between the two. But yeah, I'm picking the Chiefs in this one.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because of the fact that back in late October, according to this list here, the Jaguars were the 13th highest defense in blitz packages. Mm-hmm. So I am expecting them to blitz, which actually is going to favor Patrick Mahomes big time in this game.
Or they know that and they don't.
That could be the case. I think their personnel, though, sets up for blitz packages. They're just kind of built for that. Kind of like Steve Spagnuolo's defenses are built for blitz packages.
Bring on the blitz.
So the matchups that I'm looking at in this game, because I do agree with you guys. I think this could be a fast-paced game, and I think that the Jaguars are one of those teams that want to trade blows because that's the kind of team they are. They want to go out there and score points. The problem, though, is they haven't done that very much this year. They're not an offense that puts up a ton of big points at the end of the game. They've only had one game of scoring over 30 points, and it was against the Chargers, and the Chargers' defense is just not good at all. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to really take away anything, and that was a home game for the Jaguars, too, even in SoFi. They had more fans in that game, and I didn't think that was possible. But, yeah, I don't see an offense that's going to come in here and drop 30 points, and I think that the Chiefs are going to score 40. I think the Chiefs are going to score over 40 points in this game because they again, with the whole bounce back theory that I have, the fact that after bad performances, they come out and just put an onslaught. And I think they want to change the narrative of what they've been doing at home this year, which has not been playing good offensive football. And I just think this is a good recipe for the Chiefs to do that. I do think if Travis Etienne scores touchdowns in this game, that we can see Trevor Lawrence start to put together some points. Yep. And because then Steve Spagnuolo can't necessarily play the bend, don't break defense. You have to start playing a little bit more upfront pressure, which leads me to my two key players in this game. The two guys that I want to put out there, the first one foremost is Trent McDuffie. I think Trent McDuffie is showing already, guys. I know he hasn't played a bunch, but he's already showing that why the Chiefs traded up for this kid. He's not given up a single completion in the games he's played this season.
He's only been targeted like 4 times.
They're not targeting him because, guys, I think he should be endorsed by Elmer's Glue. This dude has been absolutely on the hips of the guys he's defending. It's unbelievable how good he looks. Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to be Sauce Gardner. That guy's who he is I'm not saying he's going to be Pat Surtain or any of these other guys. But I think he could be Trent McDuffie. I think he could be the guy that Chiefs traded up, 8 spots to get?
Yeah. Because I don't need picks, just don't allow catches.
Just don't allow catches. Let that whatever side of the field you're on, it's black. It's a black hole. They're not throwing over there because they know it's an automatic incompletion. I'm good with it. Darrelle Revis didn't have a lot of interceptions. You know why? Because nobody threw at him.
Right.
That's the whole point here.
Shut down the whole side of the field.
I'm good with Trent McDuffie being a guy that gets 1 interception a year if he's locking whoever he's locking down.
That's what a true lockdown corner is. You don't need picks.
I think Trent McDuffie is going to make Trevor Lawrence's day hard, guys. I really, really do.
He's on his side of the field.
Here's the thing. You go and sign Christian Kirk to this massive contract, and you think, oh, they're going to throw the ball deep. Do you guys know that Trevor Lawrence is one of the 3 lowest attempts in the league at 20-plus pass attempts of 20-plus yards? He does not throw the ball deep. That is why their running game has been so emphatic, because they have to rely on the run game to get plays down the field, because Travis Etienne's been so good at that, at extending drives and saving the game. I mean, they should have won that Broncos game because of Travis Etienne alone. Mm-hmm. So I think that Etienne's going to do his thing, but I think that guys like McDuffie and Snead are going to really lock up Zay Jones and Christian Kirk and not allow Trevor Lawrence to make those big plays that we've been accustomed to. The Chiefs' defensive numbers don't look good this year, because they've lost Trent McDuffie. He's missed, 6-7 games? Like, you don't have your best corner on the field. Yeah, your pass defense is going to look pretty bad. And again, a lot of those stats have come in blowouts. I don't think that's going to happen this week, guys. I think the Chiefs' defense is going to have another really good defensive showing. I think that the Jags get over 130 rushing yards. I think that's going to happen. But I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be held to under 200 passing yards. I don't think he's going to have a very good game, guys. And I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have a stellar game. I know he had technically a yards-wise good game, but I think his numbers go down, or yards go down a little bit this week. But I wouldn't be surprised if he throws for 315 passing yards. But I think he's going to have 3 touchdowns in this game. And I think that goes to my second guy. I think Jody Forts is getting a touchdown in this game. And it's the biggest reason why is he hasn't been on the offense the last couple weeks. He hasn't been involved hardly at all. I think there's going to be some red zone packages like you talked about, Trevor, but I don't think it's going to go to Kadarius Toney. I think it's going to go to their 6-6.
We'll have multiple opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm saying I think Jody Fortson, they like to get him involved in red zone packages. Ball, I think the Chiefs are going to get into the red zone a lot this game. I think it's going to be 5 or 6 times. And I think Jody Fortson's getting at least 1 touchdown in this game. Travis Kelce played a bunch last week. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't play him as much in this one, because I think in this game they're going to score a lot of points and they're not going to have him out there a lot. He's an older tight end now. He got 17 targets in that game. He played over 50-something snaps in that game. I don't think they're going to want to have him out there. So expect Noah Gray and Jody Fortson to get some targets in this game. And I think Juju's going to have another big game, but he's not one of my guys I'm looking at. I'm looking at Jody Fortson, and I'm looking at Trent McDuffie to make some key plays in this game that's going to keep the Chiefs to move to 7-2 this week. But I do expect the Chiefs to score a lot of points. But Trevor, who are your two key players in this one?
So, and I do want to, before I start to say this, I want to say that there is a little bit of history here between these two teams since Patrick Mahomes has been here too. The last couple times we matched up, we put it on them. And there's been a lot of like chit chat. Obviously, a lot of those guys from the early days are gone when they were doubting us and doubting who Tyreek Hill was in the early days. I like the history that's kind of connected to these two teams. Obviously, the personnel has been completely refined and reborn, a lot of new faces and so on. But these are always kind of a fun. I know the radio has been playing a lot of the old snippets from those old matchups, and those. So that always adds a little bit extra juice to this for me as a fan to kind of put it on these guys because people don't forget. You know what I mean? So that's a fun little fan narrative. Maybe it still lingers because some of these guys are still around. Chris Jones and guys like that are still on this team. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are still on this team that were part of those games where we put it on those boys. So that's a little fun narrative leading into this week. But defensively, Justin Reid hasn't really made a real keynote play this year yet. He's been solid. He's been good in his coverages. He's been playing well, but he hasn't had that play let's go. He's had a couple nice hits here and there, but he hasn't had a keynote play. And I feel like this is a good week where Chris Jones gets some pressure on Trevor Lawrence. He makes an errant throw and floats it up over the middle to go to Evan Ingram, over the middle to the tight end Evan Ingram. And I think Justin Reid could maybe get a really good hit here or possibly get an interception, possibly a pick six. I'm expecting I'm predicting a good big play for him as a keynote play on this season halfway through the year here where he can have that play. And this was a good spot to do it where Trevor Lawrence makes a mistake over the middle. So it's just a kind of a dart to the wall kind of a prediction here, but I think this is a good opportunity for Justin Reid to make a play here in the secondary as a keynote play on the year. So that's my defensive guy. Offensively, it's Kadarius Toney. I think this is there's not a better spot for him right now to show himself and his skill set to kind of fall into that Mecole Hardman kind of role. Not that he's going to get all the snaps on because I think they're going to use Sky Moore a little bit too in the jet sweeps and things like that because he's really good at those as well. I think they'll mix a lot of those guys in, but I do think that Andy Reid has red zone packages for Kadarius Toney. When we were getting tight last week, he had a throw to Kadarius Toney over the middle with that beautiful little cutback route, and Pat timed it perfectly. They looked like they already had their timing down, which was great. That's a very very promising sign on the first game. The first pass of the game was to him, so they really want to get this guy going, and I think Andy Reid sees something in this guy that can fit this scheme in a very scary way. And I believe that. And I've liked Kadarius Toney for some years now, even when he was in Florida. And the Chiefs were high on him in the draft. He wanted him in the draft. He was graded as a first-round talent, but we were going to try to get him the second, but it didn't happen. And so I believe that there are some schemes or some drawn-up plays for Kadarius Toney himself, whether it's a jet sweep, whether it's a something. One of those shovel passes from Patrick Mahomes into the red zone, into the end zone. I think he scores this week. I think we find a way to get this kid's juices going because he's one of those. He's like a Tyreek Hill kind of guy. He's a hype guy. You get him going. That when you remember how we get Tyreek Hill going, he's tough to stop and slow down. I feel like Toney has that same kind of mentality. He's just a nasty guy. So I think we find a way to get him to score, and I think he has a very impressive game this week.
Eddie, who are yours?
All right, defensive wise, I'm gonna go with Karlaftis. I think he deserves one of those games where
he's due.
Yeah, he needs.
That's how I felt last week, man.
He needs a couple sacks. He needs to take this last opportunity with Frank Clark being out of him stepping up and being that guy. That can put the pressure on the quarterback, take the quarterback down, make those key plays.
Yep.
As much shit as we want to talk to Frank Clark, I think before his suspension, he was starting to have one of his best seasons here in Kansas City since 2019. So I think Karlaftis, if he wants to prove to the coaches that he's the next guy to replace Frank Clark and be the next guy to be the starter of this team, I think he needs to step up and there's a perfect opportunity for him, especially with the quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, being able to bring him down and maybe cause a fumble or something, force a fumble. he's due, like Trevor said. He's due for a big game, and this is the perfect opportunity for him in this game. So I'm going to go with Karlaftis on that one. And then for my offensive player, I'm going to go with Juju again.
I like it.
Man.
Eddie's sticking with his guy.
Yeah,
I like it.
I think Juju's
working.
gonna get 2+ touchdowns this game.
Love it.
He's gonna have another game. That connection between him and Patrick Mahomes is just slowly growing, and I'm liking it. I like what I'm seeing. It's just getting better. So I'm gonna say Karlaftis, my defensive player, and then Juju for my offensive player.
I like it. So when it comes to my score prediction, look, I know this sounds like it's something I say every single week, but it's because I know the potential of this Chiefs offense, and I know how good their defense can be when they're actually healthy. Well, the Chiefs are in a bounce-back scenario with their offense, and their defense is about as healthy as it's going to be this year. I'm expecting the Chiefs to have a very good offensive performance this week. I think, like I said, Patrick's going to have around 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. I would like to see the run game get involved a little bit more, but it may not even matter at this point. I think this is a really bad matchup for the Jaguars, and I think because of the fact that the Chiefs had a very embarrassing performance, I don't believe in good losses, but I do believe in bad wins, and I think that was a really ugly, nasty, and in fact, I think it was the nastiest win probably in the Mahomes era. It was just the setup and the scenario. I think that the Chiefs want to bounce back in a big way and against an opponent that is clearly inferior. Also, the fact that Andy Reid is 14-6 against his former assistant coaches.
Yep.
Doug Peterson is his former OC back from 2013 to 2015. I think that they're going to see a statement game in this one. I think Andy Reid puts it on the Jaguars. And also, another fact as to why I'm confident in saying the Chiefs are going to win big is the fact that I have not seen anything special from Trevor Lawrence to this point of his career. I know that everybody touts this guy as one of the most talented, biggest, splash for sure things out of the draft since, like, they always talk about John Elway, who, by the way, wasn't even a great quarterback in his career, but people like to talk about John Elway in that regard. They talk about Trevor Lawrence in the same regard.
A lot of people right now.
Don't give a shit. You look at the numbers. He completed 58% of his passes for his career. Yeah. Terrell Davis carried him to both his Super Bowls. Anyway, if you look at Trevor Lawrence since week 4, he hasn't had a single game with more than 1 touchdown. Mm-hmm. And in fact, he has the same amount of interceptions as he does. Since week 4, he has 3 touchdown passes to 4 interceptions.
They've been a running offense last few weeks.
Yeah, and they're going to need Trevor Lawrence to be special in this game to beat the Chiefs or to even keep it close. Because, like I said, it doesn't even matter when you have a run game that's effective. Does not matter this year. Doesn't matter in the Mahomes era. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game 41-20. I think they're gonna work the Jaguars in this one, and I think that there's gonna be a couple. I think there's gonna be a couple interceptions, and you know what? They might even try Trent McDuffie this week, and it's gonna end pretty bad. But I'm actually expecting a L'Jarius Sneed or somebody like that to force a fumble or to get an interception. Maybe even your guy Justin Reed. Yeah. But I think Trent McDuffie in the secondary are gonna have a big time game in this one, and they're gonna force the Jaguars to be one dimensional. And when you're one dimensional against the Chiefs, you're usually gonna lose 99% of the time. I'm expecting the Chiefs to win this game by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, it comes down to pacing. I think they're gonna want to try to run the ball, and we're going to be throwing it all over the field. I think points are scored in this game, though. I think we win 38-24.
I like it.
I'm going to go with 35-26.
I like it. The good scores. Let us know what you guys think as far as the score. Who do you see winning this game? What's your score prediction? Hit us up on YouTube. Hit us in the comment section and let us know, man. But we're really excited to hear from you guys as well. We have one more order of business to get to, guys. What's it called? Hold this L. Each and every week, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's in the world of sports are friendly or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, who is ever holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's. Mr. Eddie Ortiz, Mr. Yo, who's holding the L for you this week, and why is it F1?
That's not F1, but I'm actually watching F1. I'm going to give it to LeBron James, baby.
You're so proud of that. You're so proud of that.
We all know why we're going to give it to LeBron. Come on now. That man came out.
Why are you going Russell Wilson on us, bro? You're changing all your accents and stuff. What's going on here?
He came out earlier this week, I believe 3 days ago. He came out on a post-game interview and said that he himself has to learn how to flop. I don't know what league was he playing before. I don't know who was playing for LeBron James before. But I'm just here to remind him that that's who he's been his whole career. A flopper. So I was actually shocked that he said that. And he said it with a serious face. I mean, if he would have laughed afterwards and, part of the game, or something like that. Nah, he stuck with it, and he was very serious. So I was like, oh, wow. He's going with that, huh? And, Twitter being Twitter and the internet being the internet, they posted a clip of him, saying those words, and right after that, plays of him flopping were played. It was amazing. Best day of my life. He made a full of himself. Such a clown. He's always been. He ain't never going to be no king. So, for that reason, LeBron James, you're going to have to do me a favor and hold this L.
I protested that one. I took a knee on that one.
Yeah. It was definitely said in tongue-in-cheek, but that's neither here nor there.
Trevor Toole, who's holding the L for you this week?
Why is it LeBron?
No. I don't tag along with that blasphemy. So a local Buffalo Bills broadcast news station was following up with some Bills players in the locker room a couple days ago, following up on the Josh Allen, trying to get updates on the Josh Allen situation. And they were interviewing Gabe Davis about it, and Gabe Davis was giving his little spiel about it. And as Gabe Davis was giving his spiel about Josh Allen and the update he can give and what he could say about the situation, mind you, this is in the locker room. So the camera's on Gabe Davis.
I've seen that.
And in the background, I don't know who the Bills player is. Looks like some kind of possibly a lineman, a pretty big fella, big white fella. And his big white ass, bare ass, is in the background of the. You can actually see. I'll show you.
Eddie,
they don't actually show.
Is that Trevor's W or what the fuck?
In the background. So in the background, for those who are just listening and you haven't seen it yourself, the
that's incentive to get on our YouTube channel. Right?
the broadcast itself catches a literally full on buck naked player for the Bills is in the background, and the camera is just rolling. I don't know. They must not have noticed it, and the cameraman's just focusing on Gabe Davis.
Maybe
I guess
they knew what they were doing. They're like, this is going to get a ton of clicks.
This is why I don't believe you should be interviewing people like on camera. If you want to record something as a journalist or something in the locker room, fine. But I mean, this just felt like a no-brainer not to be interviewing guys right after practice. Everyone's showering, everyone's changing. Anybody who plays sports knows how it is. Everyone's dick's hanging in the locker room, bro. This is how it goes. You know what I mean? So you can see it. It's all over Twitter. I was dying laughing when I saw it at first, so I just felt like, I felt it was an L-worthy situation for this broadcast to be interviewing a grown man in the locker room post-practice, talking about Josh Allen, when they could just wait until after the locker room was out and everyone wasn't changing and showering. So I don't know who the famous white ass is on the live broadcast, but they didn't identify the player. And they didn't actually, I don't even know who the station was. They didn't say who the station was news-wise for the Buffalo Bills. But it's a local broadcast. So for that, the local broadcast for broadcasting a white ass on the for everyone to see on the Twitter sphere and the social medias, do me a solid favor and hold this L
for Trevor.
So I'm sure I know you, Trevor and Eddie, aren't as active on Twitter as I am. I'm somebody who's very active on Twitter. I have been for the last 10 years.
Not so much.
But everybody's fully aware of the whole Elon Musk buying Twitter and, how he's made a lot of changes, very rapidly making changes to Twitter to where if you are a part of Twitter Blue's subscription up to, I believe, yesterday, I think they shut it down because of some things that went down. But they had it to where if you were purchasing Twitter Blue, that you would be able to be verified on Twitter, which we know before was mostly about like a who's who thing. And the thing about the whole frustration of it, I can see some of it, but most of it's very avoidable as to why you're getting frustrated. And some of the frustration was people are like, oh, now people are getting verified that shouldn't be verified. I'm seeing a lot of people that are playing the peasants card, because they were verified previously, and now they see people that weren't verified now verified because of it. And it's funny because a lot of us content providers, particularly in the world of sports, already had Twitter Blue months and months before this for editing purposes, for longer videos, for things that were very beneficial to the experience of Twitter for the reasons we were using it, our show included. So when we got the verification, it looked like people were just buying it for that. But here's the thing. I don't care what your purpose is for it. if it is a part of the package that you already had, what's the big deal? But see, that's not even the part I want to attack. I just wanted to address that briefly. We have people like Marcus Spears, who I like a lot on NFL Live, very good personality, former NFL player, all that stuff. But he is the encapsulation of my frustration with people that are frustrated with quote-unquote Twitter Blue and the verified accounts. His quote from tweet yesterday said, quote, "I ain't gonna lie, this at Elon Musk shit is and if he want to charge $8, he own it and he can do it, but man, I'm so confused by accounts now. Somebody help. I've been thinking at Woj ESPN, been tweeting breaking news all day, and he ain't tweeted shit," and a bunch of laughing emojis. It is funny. I get it. But this is the thing that I don't understand from people like Marcus all the way down to just your average guy who's got 18 followers on Twitter. If you're falling for stuff like this, like we saw Rich Eisen fall for the tweet that somebody put out there saying that Raiders fired Josh McDaniels. He put wow and then had to delete it because it was a fake account that had a verified account. Do you know how easy it is to avoid that? Very easy. You look at the handle, and then you look at the follower amounts. If some guy named Woj has a verified check mark, but his name's like Waj, and he has 97 followers, it's probably not Adrian Wojnarowski.
Yeah.
If some guy, his name's Adam Shitter, and he has Adam Schefter's picture, and he has 146 followers, it's probably not Adam Schefter. It takes 2 seconds to look at this. So for people in the sports world that are falling for these things, it's only you that you have to blame. You should be mad at yourself, not anybody else, not Elon Musk. I don't care what your opinion is on him. You can have a harsh opinion. You're pro Elon Musk. It doesn't matter. The fact is, Elon gave people an opportunity to be verified that probably should have been verified at the beginning, like myself included, damn it, because I'm out here working my ass off on Twitter to put our brand out there, and it's finally worked for us, and it's working because Tony Dungy and I have been going at it all day. So it's been a blast. But for those of you that are out there that have a problem with Twitter Blue and the verifications and these accounts that are out here making shit up as other names and things of that nature, you got to do me a favor and hold this L, because that's on you, brothers and sisters.
We're TMZ now.
Yeah, a lot of it, I think this comes down to like attention spans, people not wanting to like double check things. People just want to like immediately like show everybody and like retweet it and like break the news.
Takes 2
like,
seconds.
Yeah, it's not that.
Takes literally
it's really
2
not
seconds.
that big of a deal, man.
Well, this has been a fun show. We've had a lot of good content today. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Before we get out of here, though, I do want to say that you guys, if you've not done it already, I want to pimp this out because he's our guy. He's our producer. Mr. Clay Windler dropped another banger this week. Yep. The new video on Red Tribe Cinema is Henry versus Mahomes, the one true king. I've watched this probably 4 or 5 times. Trevor's daughter and my niece, Scarlett, is the biggest fan of Red Tribe Cinema. I can't wait for her to watch it. I don't think she's watched it yet. I can't wait for her to see it. But Clay Windler does an amazing job at Red Tribe, guys. If you think he does great here with us on the back end of everything and splicing and putting things together for us, man, it's nowhere near as great as what he does at Red Tribe. I hope you guys are following him on Twitter, on Facebook, and more importantly on YouTube. You guys need to give him a look. Go look at Red Tribe Cinema. They has so many great videos, so much great content that's been mentioned across the world. You have 810 locally, 610. All those guys have always dropped his stuff on there, but we've had big time names in the NFL world retweet his stuff as well. He is the best at what he does, and I hope you guys go and give him some support. Go check out that video. Go subscribe. Go share. Go do all that stuff. And while you're at it, go ahead and do that for our show as well at the Spoken Podcast. We would definitely appreciate that because we're trying to grow this thing as much as we possibly can. We're putting all the effort we can, and it would be a definite humble service to us if you guys would help us out in that regard as well, man. We're putting a lot of effort into this, and we know that you guys have been such a great support to us as we continue to get this thing, as we continue to reach or get closer to that episode 200, man. It's pretty incredible what we've been able to do here, man. It's all thanks to you guys. But for that, for Trevor Twidwell, for Eddie Ortiz, for the great Clay Windler, like I just mentioned before, that puts all this stuff together, I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 192 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And until we're here 1 week's time from today, talking about a Chiefs victory over the Jags and a rematch against the Chargers, this time in SoFi. Against the Chargers, that is correct. Yeah, against the Chargers in SoFi. I'm Lance Twidwell, man. We out of this bitch.
Later.